Chapter 201. Seeing this, De Tian bit her lower lip, somewhat unsure of his attitude. He just kissed me, but now he acts like nothing happened. For a moment, De Tian felt a little worried. Seeing Roca walking away, she could only follow him helplessly. At this time, Auntie Surprised and Professor Bill and others were waiting for a long time by the river. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when I saw them finally arrived. However, when Roca got on the boat, no one was willing to approach him. Even the originally lively atmosphere became quiet because of his arrival. This is the respect for the strong. Roca crossed his arms and looked at the yawning man expressionlessly, ignoring the few people. It took a long time until the modified ship successfully left the shore, and the atmosphere became lively. It was at this time that the pilot Slivko and the team contacted Mayor Fake. "I am Fox number 5, please reply." "We received it." "Yes, we are on the boat, we are heading north by water." Hearing his nonsense, James quickly said, "Slivko, stop talking nonsense and ask about their location." Slivko nodded and said, "Send a flare and we'll come looking for you." "Roger that, Fox 5. On the other side, after receiving the message, Marie Faxia immediately ordered someone to fire a flare. As the flares exploded in the sky, Roca and the others also saw the location, and everyone was excited for a moment. "We're going home!" The on-site commander, Nieves, shouted with joy. However, the next second, joy turned into sorrow. Suddenly, a bird that looked like a giant bat swooped down from the sky and grabbed Nieves away. This scene immediately frightened everyone on the boat. At this time, Nieves, who was captured, also screamed in fear. Even one bird couldn't catch him into the sky, but with the help of the second bird, Haufus was gradually caught into the sky. Roca knew this bird, its name was Icaroswing. It looked like a bat, an aerial killer that liked to attack its prey by dropping vertically from a high altitude. "Quick!" James yelled, and then he and Slivko picked up their submachine guns and prepared to shoot. But because the bird Icaros was too small and was holding onto Nieves, it was impossible to aim at it. Maybe even Nieves would be shot. The two had no choice but to put down their guns. "Mr. Roca, can you save him?" At this time, Aunt Marvel suddenly thought of Roca, the man who could play with King Kong in the palm of his hand. In fact, she really wanted to ask Roca why he didn't stop the strange bird just now. If he had taken action, he would have been able to prevent Nieves from being captured. But she didn't say it. Of course it is right not to say it out loud. Because Roca had no obligation to save people. In fact, he had already discovered the wing of Icaros when it was still in the sky. But as he said, he had no obligation to protect anyone except Professor Bill. Of course, if he is in a good mood, he might take action. Certainly. In response to Aunt Marvel's question, Roca crossed his arms and nodded. "Then can you save Nieves?" Aunt Surprise said hurriedly. "Why should I save him?" Roca raised his eyebrows. "If you want to save her, you have to give a reason. They have nothing to do with each other." Kr. After hearing this, Auntie Surprised was speechless and angry. Human life is at stake, but there are people who have the ability but do nothing to help. Such people are really selfish. "Mr. Roca, I am willing to pay $100,000. Professor Bill was knowledgeable and he immediately offered a price of $100,000. Just as he finished speaking, the next moment Roca flew back and forth, with Nieves, who was screaming in fear, in his hand. $100,000, remember that. After Roca dropped Nieves, he turned around, folded his arms across his chest, and looked at the scenery in the distance. The crowd, who were so shocked that their mouths were wide open, finally came to their senses. What on earth just happened? How did Nieves get back to the ship so quickly? Slivko and Mark Hank, who didn't see it clearly, were both confused. Only James, Aunt Marvel and Big Sweetie knew what had just happened. It turns out that saving people is so simple. It only takes a moment. Nieves fell to the ground, still waving his hands and feet in fear, until he found himself back on the boat, then he stood up in a daze. Asterisk. I'm fine? Was that just an illusion? No, that's not an illusion. Remember to pay Mr. Roca tens of millions of dollars later. Dr. Bill patted him on the shoulder. After hearing this, Nieves finally reacted. In fact, he just found out that he was brought back to the ship by something, but he didn't expect it was this man. If this is the case, it is more reasonable. I understand. Thank you, Mr. Roca. Nieves thanked him gratefully. Although $100,000 is not a small amount, it is money well spent compared to one's own life. After this little episode, the people on the boat no longer dared to be careless. James, Slivko and Mark Hank held their guns and were on guard at all times. They would shoot without hesitation if there was any movement. Fortunately, there was no danger afterwards. Until we got ashore. The few of them headed north and soon met up with Mayor Faxia and his gang 2 kilometers away. FK Man also got to know World War II veteran Mark Hank again. At the same time, James told his plan. Simply put, let everyone go to the evacuation point in the north together. With the soldiers accompanying us, the journey will be smoother. However, Mara Fake Man will not give up, he also plans to kill King Kong. Of course I can't just leave like this. What's more, Malefak has a soldier named Conrad under his command in the west. This reason is enough to make James and others compromise. Even though Mark Hank had reminded them that there were skeleton lizards to the west. But Mari Faxia still insisted on leading his troops to the west. So the group set off towards the west. Is the west direction really okay? Mr. Mark clearly said there are skeleton lizards in the west. De Tien Tien walked beside Roca with a worried look on her face. Although they don't know what the skeleton lizard looks like, Mark Hank's story tells them that King Kong's parents were killed by a skeleton lizard. King Kong and the others had also seen with their own eyes how terrifying it was. What if I encounter that kind of monster when heading west? 7. Chapter 202. Of course there is a problem. Roca answered as a matter of course, saying that the west was the lair of the skeleton lizards and it would be strange if we didn't encounter any skeleton lizards there. After hearing what he said, De Tien Tien became even more worried. It seems that they are bound to encounter the skeleton lizard. I just hope that they can come back safely. Leave in 10 minutes. FK Man ordered everyone to take a 10-minute break. What a bunch of good kids. We're going to die in battle together soon, but it's good to die with you. That's all I can say. Ha ha ha, you shouldn't have come here. Ha ha. Mark Hank was laughing like a madman and talking to the soldiers. However, he is willing to obey orders even though he knows there is danger, which shows that he is a man. Soon 10 minutes later. The group set out to the west. 153 is different from the dense jungle in the north. There are fewer trees on the west side due to the weather, and it appears to be a plain. The ground was covered with green grass, forming a large grassland. However, on the prairie there are towering skeletons like boulders, some of which are up to 4 or 5 meters high. You can imagine how huge the owner of this skeleton was when he was alive. I'm afraid it's another terrifying beast. However, when they came to a basin filled with methane, more skeletons were piled up in it, as if it was a mass grave of corpses, filled with the smell of death. What the hell is this place? James couldn't help but frown. These are the remains of King Kong's parents. Mark Hanka answered his question. The surprised old lady looked terrified. I have taken many photos of mass graves, but none of them can compare to the tragedy here. The transport plane crash site is just over there in the valley. We will go through here and then go to the highest point in the west. The damn FK man will not be scared by the scene before him. Despite Mark Hank's repeated persuasion, he did not change his mind. As a result, the group was forced to enter this basin filled with the breath of death. Professor Bill, I suggest you stay away from me. After entering the basin, Professor Bill walked around with his camera, taking pictures of the huge skeletons that could be seen everywhere, and walked further and further away. Seeing this, Roca could only speak up and remind him. You have to know that this basin is full of methane and fog, and the visibility is less than 10 meters. If you can't find them later, don't blame him for not reminding you. On the contrary, De Tien Tien was more well-behaved and always stayed by his side. Obviously she is not stupid and knows who to be with more safely. Okay. Professor Bill shrugged helplessly and had to quickly follow the others. Hey Cole, you are so free, put out your cigarette quickly. At this time, the black soldier Mills saw that Cole still had time to light a cigarette, so he persuaded him to put it out quickly. Cole thought so too, so he threw away the cigarette he had just lit. However, this throw caused a big problem. You know, biogas can explode. Especially in this basin filled with methane. As soon as the cigarette touched the ground, the methane ignited and caused a violent explosion. Boom boom. Fortunately, the others were relatively far away and were not affected by the explosion. But it would have been better if it hadn't exploded. As soon as the explosion happened, the terrifying roars of monsters were heard all around. "Run!" Mark Hank shouted and ran forward quickly. Having lived on the island for 28 years, he was very familiar with this horrific roar. That was definitely the sound of a skeleton lizard. But running away was not an option, so the group hid under a huge skeleton. Hearing that horrifying sound, no one dared to breathe. Then a huge skeleton lizard was seen slowly walking out of the marsh gas. Fortunately, the skeleton lizard didn't seem to notice them. "The monster has left, let's go." After seeing the skeleton lizard leave, Mayor Fake Man immediately ordered everyone to gather together and leave here quickly. But did the skeleton lizard really leave? You have to know that King Kong's IQ is about the same as that of an adult human. The skeleton lizard may be slightly worse, but not by much. Just when everyone came out from under the skeleton and prepared to leave, the skeleton lizard had appeared behind them at some point. Then the skeleton lizard bit the last soldier Cole and swallowed him in 2 or 3 bites. "Damn it, Cole, set up the heavy machine gun!" FK Man yelled. "Everyone who has a weapon, take out your weapons and shoot at the skeleton lizard." Da-da-da, bang bang bang. All of a sudden, countless bullets swept across the huge body of the skeleton lizard like a metal storm. However, facing countless bullets, the skeleton lizard was completely unharmed. However, the skeleton lizard did not choose to fight them head-on, but turned around and disappeared into the dense garden formed by the methane. The visibility of this thick fog is less than 10 meters, and the deeper you go into the basin, the thicker the fog becomes. The skeleton lizard was lurking in the thick fog like a killer in the dark night, without any movement. No one knows where it will appear from. In this terrifying atmosphere, everyone held their breath and stared at the thick fog around them. The next second, the skeleton suddenly rushed out from the thick fog. The target of its attack was Mark Hank, who had lived on the island for 28 years. However, Mark Hank remained calm, dodged the bite of the skeleton lizard, and then raised his saber to cut a wound on the skeleton lizard. This is outrageous. Even bullets couldn't hurt the skeleton lizard, but he did it with just a saber? However, the next second he was bitten by the skeleton lizard and swallowed in 2 or 3 bites. That's right, Roca said that there was no way an ordinary saber could possibly deal with a 0.5 skeleton lizard. Lao Mi just liked to show off his personal heroism. But in reality, this situation only provides the skeleton lizard with an additional bite of dinner. The skeleton lizard was not satisfied after eating Mark Hank and continued to pounce on several people. Roca, Professor Bill, and De Tien Tien, who were walking slower, were immediately targeted. "Pa, get out of the way!" Just as the skeleton lizard pounced on him, Roca slapped its head and knocked it off balance. The confused skeleton lizard wanted to turn around, but was unexpectedly slapped in the face again. "Come on, it has to turn its head." The skeleton lizard is no fool. Seeing that this prey is tricky, it immediately rushes towards other prey. Chapter 203. Seeing this scene, De Tien Tien was a little surprised and even wanted to laugh, but she couldn't. Because the skeleton lizard has turned around and started biting the big-headed soldiers. "Mr. Roca, could you?" Seeing that Neves and others were in danger again, Professor Bill frowned and spoke, but he was interrupted before he could finish his words. "You have to pay extra." Roca crossed his arms and smiled as he watched the skeleton lizards biting the big-headed soldiers. Professor Bill felt helpless after hearing this, but he was also somewhat relieved that the other party still had weaknesses. As long as the problem can be solved with money, it is not a problem. These soldiers and Nieves, the on-site commander, cannot be simply measured by money. For example, training a soldier would cost at least tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not to mention Neves, the on-site commander. And the colonel, FK Xia, is even more valuable. How about this? I'll add an extra $1 million to save their lives. Too low. Roca shook his head. It's at least $1.55 million. After all, there is a colonel in it. 18. The value of a colonel is much more valuable than these privates. This will definitely cost extra money. X. Seeing that Colonel FK was about to be killed by the skeleton lizard, Professor Bill had no choice but to compromise. "Anyway, we can just let the military pay for it when the time comes. Make a deal." As soon as Roca finished speaking, he had already reached the top of the skeleton lizard and stepped on it. Boom! The head of the skeleton lizard exploded when it was stepped on the ground, and green juice splashed all over the face of the mayor Fake Man. "Okay, time to go." After dealing with the skeleton lizard, Yinka turned around and strode away. Only the dazed-looking Marafak man and a group of soldiers were left. It took him a while to come to his senses, and then he ordered everyone to leave the basin. Anyway, let's get out of here first. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if another skeleton lizard appeared later. After leaving the basin, everyone rested in a safe forest. Colonel, we should have listened to Mark. He has lived on the island for 28 years and knows very well how ferocious the monsters are. This is just one. If it weren't for Mr. Roca's intervention, I'm afraid we would all have been buried in the mouth of the skeleton lizard. If you had listened to Mark's advice, he wouldn't have died. Aunt Marvel angrily accused FK Man. All this was because of his willful behavior that 2 people died in the mouth of the skeleton lizard. Is it worthwhile to sacrifice 2 soldiers for 1 soldier? And if Roca hadn't taken action, they would probably have died. She couldn't imagine the consequences if she encountered a skeleton lizard again. Yes, we have to leave here immediately. Professor Bill also said, by the way, the military must pay Mr. Roca $1.6 million. He saved your lives. After hearing this, Mayor Faxia and the others knew that it was Professor Bill's promise to give them money that allowed Roca to rescue them. $155 is nothing. But he will never leave before finding Chapman and killing King Kong. We can't go back until we find Chapman. FK Man still has a firm attitude. I'm sorry, Colonel, Chapman is dead. At this time, James took out a plaque with Chapman's name engraved on it. It was obvious that the skeleton lizard had eaten Chapman. The fake man was stunned for a moment, then his expression remained unchanged. That won't work either, we have to go to the crash site of the transport plane. What is there that makes you want to go there? James was really confused. There are weapons, enough to kill at FK. The FK finally revealed his plan. Finding Chapman was a small matter, getting the weapon was the real thing. He was determined to avenge all the slain members of the helicopter team. After hearing this, James and Aunt Marvel couldn't help but look at Roca. The scene of how Roca taught King Kong a lesson is still vivid in his mind, but in the end Roca let King Kong go. The two were unclear about what exactly happened. But if you want to deal with King Kong, you might have to go against this man. This is not good news. King Kong alone is difficult to deal with, let alone a man who can play with King Kong at his will. This is simply seeking death. We can't kill King Kong. Mark said King Kong is the god of the island. It is because of King Kong that the skeleton lizards dare not come to the ground. Once King Kong died and the skeleton lizards came to the surface, the people of the primitive tribes would suffer. That's right, that thing just now is the most dangerous, and there are still many underground. If the natural competition between species is destroyed, their number will definitely increase dramatically. Aunt Marvel, James, Brooks and others all tried to persuade them. But damn FK Xia wouldn't listen at all. Then kill them all. Damn FK Man yelled loudly. This is also in line with the military's approach, any force that dares to resist will be eliminated. 320 But this time they hit a wall. Colonel, please listen to us and leave here. De Tian also asked. Yes, we just need to leave here and bring more people. Professor Bill didn't want to take any more risks. You lied and killed my man. FK Man didn't forget that Professor Bill's purpose was not to explore this unknown island, but to find monsters. After arriving on the island, the seismic charge was dropped to lure out the monster. The effect is very good. As soon as they arrived on the island, they encountered King Kong, causing heavy losses to the helicopter team. But Marie Faxia will always remember this incident. Professor Bill was speechless after hearing this. It was indeed because he did not explain the situation clearly, which led to casualties. If it is made clear that there is a monster on the island. Damn it, there is no way that the FK Man and his men only brought such a small number of weapons. They must have brought more powerful weapons. But there is nothing much to say now. For a moment, both sides drew their arrows and crossbows. Colonel, James stepped forward to smooth things over. How about this? I'll take these people back to the ship to wait for you, and you go to the mountain 3 kilometers away to find a transport plane. Is that okay? Chapter 204. Marie Faxia thought about it and finally agreed with his decision. Let's go and kill the gorilla. After saying this, FK Man left with the soldiers. It can be seen that the remaining soldiers do not really want to go, but there is no way, they have to obey orders on the battlefield. Wait until the soldiers leave. James glanced at Roca, and seeing that he didn't say anything, he led his men north. Fortunately, there were no dangers along the way. What no one noticed was that Roca quietly left for a moment. At the same time, the other side. Take all the weapons you can, including those seismic charges. That's what attracted it here. Marifaxia and others also found the crashed transport plane safely. He immediately ordered the soldiers to take all the equipment and weapons in the transport plane. He will use these weapons to kill King Kong tonight. However, just when they were sorting out their equipment. Boom! 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 The ground began to shake regularly. What happened? What's going on? Is there a monster coming? All the soldiers became nervous. One of the soldiers saw a horrifying scene through the gaps in the treetops. It is coming. At this time, everyone else also saw King Kong striding towards them. For a moment, everyone raised their guns in fear, waiting for the order from the god-fake man to shoot. FK Man's face was filled with anger and confusion. Why did this gorilla find this place? This shouldn't be the case. But there was no extra time for him to think. King Kong arrived in front of them in just a few steps. Hit me! Damn, FK Man yelled. The next moment, gunshots suddenly rang out. Boom boom boom! Da-da-da! Countless bullets hit King Kong like a metal storm. Roar roar! King Kong roared, raised his feet and stomped down on the few people. Boom! The moment their feet touched the ground, the soldiers rolled to the side in panic. But several soldiers were still trampled to death. The death of teammates made others even crazier. But they had nothing but guns, and they had no time to place the explosives that they had just brought down from the transport ship. For a moment, everyone held the rifles in their hands and roared in despair. Watching his soldiers being trampled into a pulp with his own eyes, the anger in Marifaxia's heart was beyond words. They had clearly planned to use explosives to deal with the monster, so why did King Kong suddenly find them and launch an attack? There was no time for Malefak to think, he could only pick up the machine gun and make a final struggle. Finally, King Kong's huge feet landed on the ground, silencing all the gunshots. Roar! King Kong pounded his chest with his fists and roared, then turned and left. Only wreckage was left. Soon all kinds of snakes, insects, rats and ants came here smelling the blood. I believe it won't be long before this place returns to its original state. At the same time, the other side. What's that noise? Aunt Marvel seemed to hear the roar of a beast, so she turned her head and looked into the distance. But she saw nothing. What's wrong? The person walking in front said this and looked back with some confusion. Nothing. The surprised aunt shook her head, thinking she had heard it wrong. There are all kinds of giant beasts on Skull Island, so it is normal to hear beast roars. But no one noticed that the corners of Roca's mouth rose slightly. He was watching King Kong kill Mare Fake Man and others the whole time. All he could say was well done. In fact, it was he who asked King Kong to deal with FK Man and others. Since these people wanted to use explosives against his pets, he naturally couldn't just sit back and watch. This is also retribution. If Mare Fake had given up on fighting King Kong at the beginning and chose to leave directly, perhaps he would not have died. In short, there are no obstacles on the next section of the road. But the mountain road is difficult to walk on. Until dark, they still hadn't reached the river. Because when we went west, we walked in a straight line, but when we came back, we took a long detour to bypass the basin full of bones. After a day of traveling, everyone was exhausted and out of breath. Not to mention old man Professor Bill. Everyone, take a break. James, who was exploring the way ahead, was also very tired at this time, but he didn't dare to stay here for too long. After all, night is the hunting time for most wild animals. If another monster appears, without the protection of the soldiers, they will probably end up in a miserable state. After hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and then found a place to rest. Professor Bill. Kindness. Professor Bill looked at Roca with some confusion. Roca had spoken very little along the way. Why did you suddenly speak? James and Aunt Marvel also looked over with some confusion. What I want to say is that those soldiers are dead, but the money we used to save them cannot be reduced at all. Roca leaned against a big tree, crossed his arms and smiled. What? Hearing this, everyone was somewhat surprised and confused. Have they already? Professor Bill guessed with some disbelief. It's impossible. There were so many of them and so many guns. It's impossible for them to die over there. Aunt Marvel shook her head and didn't believe this guess. Instead, James frowned and looked into the distance. In fact, he also noticed something wrong, but he was not sure. Meh Zhao, now after hearing what Roca said, he had prepared for the worst. Don't worry, you won't be short of money. Professor Bill sighed. Although it was hard to believe, he knew that the Colonel and the others were probably in great danger. But there is nothing we can do about it. If you want to blame someone, just blame Colonel Fakeman for being so stubborn and determined to seek revenge on King Kong. Yet just at this moment, Yin Tian Tian suddenly roared and jumped up from the ground. With the help of moonlight, everyone looked over there. All I saw was a colorful snake on the ground that I had never seen before. For a moment, De Tian Tian only felt her hands and feet were cold, and her face was full of fear. Go! Just at this moment, Roca kicked the snake casually, and the stones on the ground instantly smashed the snake into meat paste. Seeing the crisis resolved, everyone seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Chapter 205. Although James and Aunt Marvel were a little afraid of Roca, they still felt safe having such a powerful person around. At worst, you can just pay some money when you are in danger. Anyway, if you lose money, you can earn it again. But if you lose your life, you lose everything. Thanks. De Tian Tian thanked him gratefully. If Roca hadn't helped, she would have been bitten by the snake. Coupled with the care she received along the way, her affection for Roca had almost reached its limit, and even the look she gave him had become as gentle as possible. Would you like to try something exciting? Roca crossed his arms and grinned. What? De Tian Tian was a little confused. Roca didn't waste any time and just reached out to hug her delicate body, then flew straight into the sky. At this time, the moon in the sky was full, and there were colorful auroras not far away, which was simply beautiful. What a nice view! Looking at this scene, De Tian Tian just felt it was extremely romantic. There are even more beautiful ones. Roca grinned and then bent down and kissed her. Caught off guard, De Tian Tian could only passively endure it, but then she took the initiative to hug Roca's neck and responded enthusiastically. James, Aunt Marvel and others who were still there looked up at the two people on the full moon in the sky and were speechless. They didn't expect that at such a dangerous moment, the two of them could actually be romantic. For a moment, Auntie Surprised was actually a little envious. Are we going to leave yet? James asked, looking at everyone. Professor Bill shrugged helplessly, I think we should just pack up and stay here for the night. Without Roca's escort, he wouldn't dare to walk around. It would be troublesome if we encountered any snakes, insects, rats or ants. Although he knew Roca was very powerful, what if he was too late to rescue him? Don't you see that the other party is busy? All right. Seeing this, James had no choice but to patrol the surroundings. If he wanted to spend the night here, he had to make sure the surroundings were safe. Fortunately, there is no danger around. In fact, King Kong is nearby, so other monsters dare not approach here. This was also a coincidence. At the same time, in the sky, Rakisson opened his sweet mouth and whispered in her ear, "Put your legs up." Hearing this, De Tian Tian was stunned. Is this also possible in this case? This is in the sky. The next day, the sky is just getting light. James woke up from his half-sleep and quickly checked his surroundings. He heaved a sigh of relief when he found nothing was wrong. Hey everyone, get up, we're ready to go. Aunt Marvel, Professor Bill and Neves, who were still half asleep, also woke up one after another. Why did you leave? Is everyone okay? Fine. After they looked at each other and found that everyone was fine, they felt relieved. Wait, where are Roca and Shan? Professor Bill found that neither Roca nor Shan showed up, and was a little confused for a moment. I didn't find them either, but I think they should be fine. James was worried about no one and that man. So what should we do now? Wait for them? Aunt Surprise asked with a frown. James shrugged helplessly. What else could he do if he didn't wait? But they didn't have to wait long. A moment later, Roca came over from not far away, holding De Tian's arms. Let's go. Roca didn't waste any words and took De Tian away. Others wanted to ask something but didn't know where to start. I had no choice but to follow. They keenly noticed that De Tian had changed her clothes, but they didn't think much about it. After all, in this situation, even if you are not afraid of danger, you can't have the interest to do other things, right? However, the facts were exactly the opposite of what they guessed. Roca was not only interested, but also had a very exciting time. Unfortunately, it was Detianation's first time to have such an exciting experience, and his tolerance was a bit poor, so he didn't enjoy it to its fullest. The boat is over there. After traveling for half a day, the Japanese traveler finally returned to the place where the boat was docked. After everyone got on board, James looked towards the west. It seems like they can't come back. Hearing this, Professor Bill, Neves, and Aunt Marvel all remembered what Roca had said before. It seems like FK Xia and the others will never come back. In that case, there is no need to wait. James immediately started the engine and headed north along the river. I can finally go home. Looking at the beautiful scenery on both sides of the river, the amazed aunt took photos and sighed. What she had encountered in the past few days was the most exciting and dangerous thing she had ever encountered in her life, and she would never forget it. Yes. James nodded. If nothing goes wrong, they should be able to reach the Skeleton North evacuation point smoothly. Sit down and rest. At the stern, Roca took De Tian and found a place for her to sit on the boat. Where are you going? Seeing that he didn't sit down, De Tian asked in confusion. I'm going to take King Kong away and help him get revenge. Roca said and pinched her cheek. Don't worry, I'll always be aware of this place. If there's any danger, I'll rush over as soon as possible. Don't be afraid. Kindness. De Tian nodded obediently. Seeing this, Roca glanced at Professor Bill, James, and the others, then flew into the sky and disappeared. Seeing this scene, James and Professor Bill couldn't help but frown. Although Roca's attitude has not been very good. But no matter what, it was safer to have him around, and now that he was gone, everyone felt a sense of urgency. Deeply afraid that danger might happen suddenly. Only De Tian was not worried at all. After all, Roca said that he would always pay attention to this place, and he would definitely do it. In fact, this is true. Roca has supervision and can see clearly even at a distance of several kilometers. If there is any danger, he can be back in a second. This is also the reason why he feels at ease with De Tian and the others. At the same time. At this time, he was already standing on top of King Kong's head, looking towards the basin where the remains of King Kong's parents were located. Roar! King Kong suddenly slapped his chest with his fists and roared angrily. This time, he must kill the leader of the skeleton lizards to avenge his parents. Chapter 206. As they heard its roar, skeleton lizards emerged from the fog formed by the methane in the basin. Then, a skeleton lizard emerged from among these skeleton lizards, which was obviously much larger in size, almost catching up with the size of King Kong. Needless to say, this skeleton lizard must be the leader of the skeleton lizards. Naturally, there was no nonsense when the two sides met. After the roar, all the skeleton lizards rushed over. King Kong was not afraid at all and went up as well. If it were before, it might still be afraid, and would not even dare to provoke the skeleton lizard so blatantly. After all, many ants can kill an elephant, and 2 fists cannot beat 4 hands. What's more, he also understood that he might not be a match for the skeleton lizard leader. But this time it has the boss with it, so, it is fearless. Focus on dealing with the skeleton lizard leader. I'll help you deal with these small fry. When King Kong heard the sound behind him, he saw that more than a dozen smaller skeleton lizards in front of him were all killed in an instant, and green blood splattered all over the ground. Seeing this, King Kong's confidence increased even more. If he were to fight the skeleton lizard leader alone, he thought he was not at all inferior. Roar! The two sides roared and collided with each other. However, the skeleton lizard leader arrived first and used his tail to wrap around King Kong's body. Then he grabbed King Kong's shoulders with his claws and started to bite his head frantically with his mouth full of sharp teeth. Fortunately, King Kong reacted quickly. He grabbed the neck of the skeleton lizard leader and started fighting with it. However, the power of the skeleton lizard leader was still stronger, and King Kong accidentally scratched his arm. However, the skeleton lizard leader was also thrown out by King Kong. The battle became extremely fierce from the beginning. The leader of the skeleton lizards roared and pounced on King Kong again to fight with him. It also realized that King Kong's strength was not as great as its own. It was only a matter of time before he killed King Kong himself. Boom boom! As the two men fought, the entire basin began to tremble. Small skeleton lizards appeared around from time to time, but they were all crushed to death by Roca. It was at this time. In the end, King Kong was no match for the powerful strength of the skeleton lizard leader, and his arm was directly bitten by the skeleton lizard leader. No matter what it does, it can't break free. King Kong roared in pain, but there was nothing he could do. How stupid! Roca was a little dumbfounded by it. Indeed, King Kong is no match for the skeleton lizard leader in terms of strength alone, but King Kong is a gorilla and can use tools. Roca casually pulled out a rib from the skeleton of King Kong's parents. The rib was 4 or 5 meters long and was still very hard even after so many years, not inferior to steel at all. Definitely the best weapon. Here. As Roca finished his words, he threw the ribs to King Kong. King Kong was naturally not stupid. He took the sharp rib with one hand. The rib was like a sharp dagger in his hand. Then it raised its hand and stabbed the skeleton lizard leader in the neck. Phew! Roar! The skeleton lizard leader didn't expect that it would be so unsportsmanlike. Caught off guard, the skeleton lizard leader wailed in pain and let go of King Kong's arm. Its neck was pierced, causing it to struggle wildly. However, King Kong did not miss the opportunity to beat the downed dog. It pulled out the rib dagger and stabbed it into the body of the skeleton lizard leader again. Now the skeleton lizard is completely finished. After a few wailing sounds, there was no more movement. King Kong watched the scene breathlessly, then pounded his chest with his fists and let out a thunderous roar, as if swearing his identity as the King of Skull Island. Come on, are you so excited about being the King of Skull Island? You're still a long way from it. Roca folded his arms and fell on its shoulders. I will take you to the foggy world to become the king of the world, and then Godzilla will be waiting for your challenge. Roar! King Kong seemed to understand what he said and immediately roared excitedly. All right, stop yelling. I'll open the door to the foggy world, and you go in first. I'll let you out after we go back. It is definitely unrealistic to bring King Kong back like this. It's not that it is impossible, but it is too ostentatious. And it's also very troublesome. It would be better to open the door to the foggy world and let King Kong in. Just go back and open the door to the foggy world to let it out. Anyway, the machine he made can open the door to the foggy world at any time. Seeking Flowers 00 without further ado, he quickly figured out the machine in the air system space. After a moment, a large amount of fog poured into the valley. A door to another dimension that was more than 30 meters high was opened. The fog from the foggy world also surged out. Let's go. Roca flew and stood on King Kong's shoulder, signaling it to enter the foggy world. Although King Kong was a little confused, he was not afraid at all and immediately strode into the foggy world. In a world full of fog. This is the place that Roca had entered with Heather and the others before. There is a giant two-headed snake in the lake not far away. And when King Kong stepped in here, the giant two-headed snake immediately emerged from the water. After seeing King Kong, it was not afraid. Instead, it spit out its tongue as if it was sizing up its prey. In fact, the two-headed giant snake in front of him was 100 meters long. Even though half of his body was still in the lake, he was still much taller than King Kong. In terms of size, King Kong looks very small in front of it. King Kong was also frightened by the giant snake in front of him, but as the king of monsters, he was not afraid of it. He is not yet an adult and is only 31 meters tall. Once it reaches adulthood, its size will reach over 100 meters. At that time, the giant snake in front of it was nothing. Roar! The two-headed giant snake looked at it for a moment and then opened its bloody mouth and bit it. However, when it got closer, it suddenly discovered the figure on King Kong's shoulder. Its pupils suddenly shrank and its body suddenly stopped in mid-air. Then it quickly retreated and tried to escape. Hey, why are you running, big snake? Aren't you afraid that I will take you out and mess with you? Roca's words made the two-headed giant snake, which was about to retreat into the lake, stop stiffly, then slowly lowered its head and swam over the ground. This look is as humble as it can be. No way. I was severely punished by Roca last time. Giant beasts like the two-headed giant snake are also very intelligent. Naturally, one would be afraid of him. That's why the dramatic scene just now happened. Chapter 207. Hey, you are no match for that guy right now. Seeing the two-headed giant snake in such a humble manner, King Kong felt that he was strong again and even planned to punch the two-headed giant snake. Fortunately, Roca stopped it in time. The future King Kong is indeed very strong and can even fight against Godzilla, but the current King Kong is still a little weak in front of this two-headed giant snake. After hearing this, King Kong had no choice but to reluctantly retract his fist. Okay, Big Snake, listen, King Kong will be here for a while, you can't attack it, otherwise you know the consequences. Roca spoke like a threat to the two-headed giant snake. When the two-headed giant snake heard this, it looked up at King Kong and then nodded. Very good, then King Kong, don't run around, I will release you when I return. Roca's plan is to let King Kong be a gatekeeper, so that it doesn't matter even if 350 opens the gate to the foggy world for a long time. This will also facilitate subsequent development and research. After hearing this, King Kong nodded to show that he understood. Then I'll go first. Roca didn't waste any words and left the foggy world immediately. He could still see Tian, Dr. Bill and others on Skull Island, but he couldn't see them anymore after entering the foggy world. In order to prevent them from getting into danger, he had to go back quickly. He felt more at ease leaving King Kong here. As long as King Kong doesn't run around, there's no problem. Back to Skull Island. Roca looked at Tian and the others and found that nothing unexpected had happened. So he put away all the mechanical devices for opening the fog gate, and then returned to the ship. You're back. Roca's sudden appearance surprised Tian. James, Professor Bill and others also breathed a sigh of relief. Kindness. Roca smiled and nodded, then sat down next to Tian and put his arms around her soft waist. Didn't you say you wanted to take King Kong away? Tian was a little confused. Didn't Roca tell her before that he was going to take King Kong away? Why is King Kong nowhere to be seen? In her opinion, if they wanted to take King Kong away, they naturally had to let him leave Skull Island with them. Don't worry, it has been taken away. You will see it later. Roca smiled mysteriously and didn't explain much. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the mission King Kong. Skull Island. Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for increasing his Kryptonian bloodline by 2%. I looked at the system prompts and found that it was not bad, it had increased by another 2%. This improvement is not small at all. This is the evolution from ordinary Superman to Silver Superman. Every 1% improvement makes a world of difference. It is no exaggeration to say that if you improve yourself by 2%, you can easily beat your previous self. It's a good harvest. Holding Big Sweetie in his arms, Roca showed a satisfied smile on his face. It was really a good decision to come to Skull Island this time. Not only did he play with the woman, he also picked up a wild King Kong. And also earned more than $2 million. That was a wonderful feeling. After a moment, the modified ship smoothly arrived at the evacuation point in the north of Skull Island and successfully reunited with the contact personnel. The group then boarded the Athena. At this point, Roca's commission task was completed perfectly, but he did not leave immediately. Instead, he is prepared to accompany Tian all the way. After all, Tian is a member of the Imperial Organization. And Roca didn't let her leave the organization. This organization does have some capabilities, and the subsequent appearance of monsters such as Godzilla and Mothra are closely related to the Monarch Organization. Tian is like an insider who can know the secrets of the Imperial Organization at any time. And Roca will also silently support behind the scenes. Professor Bill reported everything about Skull Island to his superiors. Whether the military will send people to clean up Skull Island is not a problem that Roca needs to consider. Although there are some precious resources and various monsters that can be studied on Skull Island, it is far inferior to the mysterious world. There is no need to throw away the watermelon for the sesame seeds. As for wanting it all, that's even more unnecessary. Humans are greedy, unless Roca kills all of them. Otherwise, the military would have to resort to tricks. It would be troublesome to deal with harassment from various countries at that time. What's more, he already has the most precious giant beast King Kong on Skull Island, so why would he need Skull Island? A few days later, the Athena docked. After Roca gave Tian some instructions, the two parted ways. Anyway, there will be plenty of opportunities to meet in the future. There is no need to rush. Don't worry, Mr. Roca. I will pay off the commission as soon as possible after I return. During the days when the island was in crisis, Professor Bill was very grateful to Roca. If it weren't for him, he would have died many times. Well, you know Ryoko. Roca didn't say much, he just strode away. Next, he needs to choose a place to place the extra-dimensional passage leading to the foggy world. The most suitable place is naturally the newly built Silent Hill. After more than half a year of construction, Silent Hill has been renovated. Although it still didn't meet Roca's requirements, it was enough. When he returned to New York, he immediately informed Selina and Heather of his decision. Naturally, everyone is very supportive of this. At the same time, everyone who was free also rushed to Silent Hill to gather. A few days later, in the new Silent Hill. At this time, the originally abandoned town here has all been demolished and rebuilt, and it is built according to the technological city. Roca even planned to build this place into a high-tech city like Umbrella's Raccoon City. Up above is where the employees live. And below is the monster shelter. As for special areas, there are extra-dimensional passages leading to the foggy world. This is Roca's vision for the future of Silent Hill. However, now only 1.6 can temporarily place the dimensional channel in the area temporarily placed by Selina. Here we go. Roca looked at the girls and without further ado, he immediately took out the machine for the extra-dimensional passage that opened the foggy world. After some tinkering, the machine started. Just like parting clouds, a door to another dimension slowly opened. But what surprised Roca was that there was no thick fog coming out from behind the gate to the other dimension. According to the usual situation, shouldn't the fog in the foggy world surge out after the door to the other dimensional passage is opened? What's going on? Even Serena and Heather were a little confused. Although Selina had never entered the foggy world, she had heard Heather and the others talk about the situation at that time. Obviously, this does not match the current situation. Small black square ERFO. Chapter 208. I'm not sure, is there something wrong with the machine? Roca frowned and began to check whether the machine was malfunctioning. This inspection was not a big deal, there really was a malfunction. It also caused positioning failures in the extra-dimensional channel connecting to the foggy world. Is there a problem with the positioning? I don't know where we are connected to now. Selina was curious. Is it an unknown world? Heather boldly guessed that this machine was modified by Roca based on the military's method of opening an extra-dimensional channel to the foggy world. Since there was a problem with the positioning, it was very likely that it was linked to an unknown world. How about I go in and take a look? Roca, who was about to close the extra-dimensional channel, also became interested. He was very skilled and bold, and he saw that his superhuman bloodline was already 25%. With this strength, he couldn't imagine what danger he would encounter. Besides, as long as this dimensional channel is not closed, there is no need to worry about not being able to come back. Even if it's closed, he can always create another one. No, I-18 don't think we should take the risk. Heather shook her head and tried to persuade him not to be impulsive. Yes, boss, let's not take any risks. Allison and the others also felt that they couldn't take the risk. No, I have to go check it out. Don't worry, it's okay. Roca rejected everyone's opinions. In fact, when he was making this machine, he was very curious whether it could connect to the unknown world. But I didn't try it right away. Plan to try again later. Isn't this the opportunity? Seeing that he was determined to do what he wanted, the girls felt helpless. They all knew that once Roca made a decision, it would probably be impossible to change it. Don't worry, it's okay, but I have to repair this machine first. Roca will not fight a battle he is not sure of winning. Since you have decided to enter this unknown world, you naturally have to prepare well. First he recorded the world coordinates of this connection, and then backed it up. The next step was to find out the problem of the machine suddenly connecting to the wrong coordinates. If this problem is not solved, sudden connection errors will occur in the future. This is something he absolutely would not allow. So Roca studied it for half a month and finally solved the problem. And he carried with him a device that opened a channel to another dimension. This is foolproof. Even if he was lost in a primitive society, he could rely on the second set of equipment he carried in the system space to come back. Okay, don't worry, I promise everything will be fine, and I'll be back within minutes after I leave. They were about to enter the extra-dimensional channel, and the girls were very worried about it. I felt relieved after hearing his promise. How about I go in with you? At this time, Selina stood up and suggested. However, she was rejected by Roca as soon as she finished speaking. What if we are in space or in a harsh environment like a volcano? I won't be able to protect you. Selina's strength is indeed the strongest among all the women, but she is still a little lacking in facing unknown dangers. There was no way Roca would let her go with him. All right. Serena shrugged and didn't force it. My dears, wait for my good news. After Roca kissed Selena's sexy red lips, he turned and entered the extra-dimensional passage. The extra-dimensional channel appears to be a rotating and distorted starry sky. However, the moment he crossed the dimensional channel, Roca arrived in another world. What surprised him was that the place in front of him was not outer space, nor a volcano, nor the sea, but in a modern technological city. It was night, and he was standing on a busy street, with bright lights and people coming and going. Umbrella Corporation? Raccoon City. Roca looked at the big words umbrella on the building in the distance with some astonishment. Looking again, isn't this Raccoon City? He was still a little unconvinced, but after using his supervision to take a closer look, he realized that it was indeed Raccoon City. Even in some dark places, biochemical crises have begun to occur. This is not only Raccoon City, but also the eve of a biochemical crisis. This extra-dimensional passage actually leads here. Even Roca didn't expect this result, and he became excited immediately. It's not because it might trigger a system task. It's because this world is full of resources. Not only does it have technological resources such as artificial intelligence Red Queen, it also has various high-tech technologies from the Umbrella Corporation and so on. Even the whole world will be Roca's back garden. As for saving the world and ending the apocalypse ahead of time, he can indeed do it. If I remember correctly, the antidote to the virus is in the underground hive in Raccoon City. But he won't do that. Or maybe it won't happen now. It is necessary to maximize the benefits. Is Alice still in the research institute? It looks like Resident Evil 2 is about to start. As for the hive, Red Queen is not in a hurry to get it. If they want to maximize their profits, they will naturally wait until the biochemical crisis breaks out and almost everyone in the world has died before appearing to save the 717 world. This is consistent with the purpose of the founder of the Umbrella Corporation who launched the Resident Evil. The other party also wants to cause a global reshuffle through the biochemical crisis. Then come out and control the world. Like them, Roca has the ability to end the doomsday at any time. In that case, there is no need to rush. Ding! The system has updated the task Resident Evil, please host to end the doomsday kindness. Roca raised his eyebrows. Did the system really release a task to end the doomsday? However, it may take several years to complete this task. Fortunately, there is no time limit for the task. Go back and discuss this with everyone. In order to avoid worrying Selena and the others, Roca decisively withdrew first. After all, we agreed to be back within 10 minutes. The other side. It's been 8 minutes, why haven't you come back yet? Even Allison, Maria, and the others were a little worried. After all, Roca had said he would be back in 10 minutes, but 8 minutes had already passed. It's about time. But Roca hasn't come back yet. So everyone was a little anxious. After all, it is an unknown world, who knows what will appear. Chapter 209. So worried. Just when everyone was worried, Roca suddenly appeared from the dimensional space channel, and then hugged Allison and Maria in his arms and kissed them both. I'm back. Everyone was surprised to see him come back. All the worries just now disappeared. Ha ha ha, I told you not to worry, but you didn't believe me. Roca pretended to be angry and slapped several girls on their buttocks, causing them to roll their eyes at him. Tell me what's going on. What's on the other side of the extra-dimensional space? Allison asked first. This is also the issue that everyone is most concerned about and curious about. Since Roca returned safely, it at least means that the world is safe. Roca smiled with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. It's a doomsday world. The end of the world? Like in the movies. It's Resident Evil. Resident Evil? The kind from zombie movies. Almost. After getting Roca's affirmation, everyone looked at each other in surprise. They didn't expect that the world would be like this. Wouldn't it be possible to bring the virus back accidentally? This is what Selena is worried about. It would be troublesome if the virus was brought back. She didn't want to live in the end of the world. Don't worry, as long as you don't bring zombies back. Roca waved his hand nonchalantly. In fact, it didn't matter even if the T-virus was brought back, because there was an antidote for the T-virus under the hive anyway. What is that world like? Maria asked curiously. She was really curious about that world. To put it simply, it's about the same as here, and the technology may even be more advanced. Umbrella Corporation's technological level is 50 or even hundreds of years ahead of the world, so it is naturally more advanced than theirs. That's why Roca pays more attention to the technology there. Next we have to discuss how to gain the benefits of that world. My idea is this. Roca briefly told the girls his thoughts. Since a biochemical crisis is happening over there, they will not interfere for the time being, but choose to find a place to develop their momentum. Just wait until the end of the world, and then come out to rule the world. In fact, this was not a plan at all. After all, the biochemical crisis there will continue for several more years, and what he needs to do is to find some people to build a power and develop it. Then come out and take down the Umbrella Corporation, and save the world. And rule the world. It's that simple. After hearing his plan, the girls looked at each other in bewilderment. This is too simple and crude. Do you like to hear complicated plans? That's fine, we can start from. Roca's super brain is not just for watching, he can write hundreds of detailed plan reports. No, Heather quickly told him to stop, saying they didn't need to hear any detailed plan. In fact, they couldn't help much with this mission. They can only work hard to develop the huge force that is entangled because of Roca. The largest component of this force is the vampire family controlled by Selena. Then there is the family controlled by Heather and the Carlson Manor. Finally, there is the Silent Hill project that Nancy and Christine are in charge of. These three parts constitute Roca's power. Although these forces are huge, they have not yet developed. It will take some time. Dear, can't we help them? Bella is still too kind. The first thing she thinks about is not fighting for interests, but whether she can save the world from the end of the world. Of course I will help them. Roca answered as a matter of course. In fact, if we want to obtain the resources over there, we naturally have to solve the end of the world, but solving viruses is not my forte. That's a bit of an understatement. In fact, if he studied it carefully, the T-virus was nothing. But this was not in his best interest at all, so he could only deceive the lovely Bella temporarily. Of course, this is not cheating. Eventually he will indeed solve the T-virus. Kindness. Bella smiled happily when she heard this. She also knew that it was not easy to solve the biochemical crisis, but as long as Roca would go to save them, it would be fine. She doesn't ask so much about time. After discussing it with everyone again, Roca once again passed through the dimensional space channel and came to Raccoon City. It seems like the time is about the same on both sides. Roca noticed this keenly, and then he found that although only an hour had passed, the biochemical crisis here had gradually spread. The zombies are no longer satisfied with the deserted streets and alleys, and have begun to attack pedestrians on the streets. If this continues, I'm afraid the entire Raccoon City will soon become a kingdom of zombies. Just at this moment, a figure bumped into Roca. Hey you, hey. From the voice, one could tell that the other person was a woman. Roca looked down and found that the other person was wearing a sexy light blue tank top, had black hair, and had a delicate and pretty face. She was a rare beauty. And the other party seemed to have noticed that something was wrong with him. Who are you? Me? A pedestrian. Roca shrugged. He felt that the woman in front of him looked familiar. My name is Roca, what's yours? The woman looked him up and down. Jill Valentine. Jill. Roca looked up and down at the beautiful woman in front of him, Niu Jian's, with some surprise. He said she looked familiar, but he didn't expect it was Jill, one of the goddesses of Resident Evil. At first glance, she is indeed very similar to Jill in the movie. It was just that it was too dark and I couldn't recognize it for a moment. Your clothes don't look like modern clothes. Jill looked him around and keenly noticed something different. Because Roca's dress style is different from that of most people in Raccoon City, it has a retro feel. Roca raised his eyebrows. He had to admit that Jill was indeed a STARS agent with a sharp eye. Although his outfit looks very fashionable, it is actually just the style of America in the 1990s. It is naturally very different from Raccoon City. Of course, you can't see it if you don't look closely. This shows that Jill, the agent, is indeed very capable. Chapter 210. I like retro style, isn't it okay? Roca chuckled. Jill was stunned for a moment, obviously struck by his handsome smile. She had seen many handsome guys, but none of them could move her. But the man in front of him seemed a little unusual. But she is not a flower maniac. Show me your work ID. Jill said, holding out her hand for it. A work permit is equivalent to an ID card. Almost everyone who comes to Raccoon City works for the Umbrella Corporation, so it is impossible for them to not have a work permit. Even if you don't have a work permit, you still have an ID card. But Roca really didn't have one. He had just arrived here and was no different from an illegal resident. How could he get a work permit? Hello, beautiful Miss Jill, you are not a police officer, are you? How can you check someone else's work ID? Roca folded his arms and smiled. Don't think he's a fool. You're just an agent. How can you check someone else's work ID? I am now working with the police, so please cooperate with me. When Jill saw that he refused to show his work ID, she became even more suspicious and even her tone became much tougher. Cooperate with the police? Why don't you solve the problem there? Roca pursed his lips to signal her to go and deal with the zombies. A zombie crisis had already broken out 2 streets away, so why were they still holding on to him? 743 I think you are more troublesome. As Jill finished speaking, a high sweep kick came over. Hey, why are you doing this all of a sudden? Roca stretched out his hand to grab the long legs that were attacking him and put them on his shoulders, then he chuckled and said, hey, this posture is good. Arr! Jill's long legs were almost turned into a split, and she didn't expect that her whip legs would be caught. She moved and tried to pull her legs back, but found that her legs were firmly grasped by the other party and she couldn't get rid of them at all. But don't think you can control her like this. The next second, she leaped forward and kicked Roca's face with her other long leg. If the kick is real, it might cause a concussion. But the next moment, Roca grabbed her long legs that were kicking towards him again. Now both of Jill's legs were grabbed and placed at shoulder height. This caused Jill to stand directly upside down. It looked like Roca was helping her practice a handstand. The posture is so ambiguous. Even passers-by couldn't help but look at them sideways or even point fingers when they saw them like this. Hearing the discussions of passers-by, Jill became even more angry. She didn't expect that as the ace agent of stars, she would suffer such a big loss at the hands of an unknown person. We must take revenge. Thinking of this, she suddenly exerted force on her waist, and then held the pistol with both hands and pointed it at Roca's head from under her crotch. In the eyes of passers-by, the postures of the two people were really strange. Roca held Jill's feet with both hands, while Jill bent over and aimed the gun with both hands. Put me down. Jill said with anger in her voice. Okay, but how do you want me to put it? Roca looked down and found it a pity that Jill was not wearing a skirt, otherwise the view would have been absolutely beautiful. Let go of one of my legs first. Jill's eyes became even colder. If she was not unsure of the other person's identity, she would have shot him long ago. Roca shrugged, then let go of one of her legs, and then let go of the other leg after she stood firm. Now Jill finally stood up again, and then he raised the pistol with both hands and pointed it at Roca. Okay, now you have the final say, but I suggest you look behind you. Roca motioned for her to look behind her, which was definitely very exciting. But Jill wouldn't be fooled. God knows if she will be attacked after turning around. The strength of this guy in front of her is incredibly great. She can't be fooled. But soon there was a loud scream and cry from behind. This forced her to look back. It's the monsters. Jill's expression froze. She had seen these monsters in the mansion, and she had also killed many people who turned into monsters after being bitten in the police station. I just didn't expect it to have spread to this extent. And just at this moment, the zombies were already rushing over, chasing after the fleeing people. Boom boom boom. Jill had no choice but to shoot and kill these mutated people. However, just as she dealt with those in front of her, another large group of zombies attacked. Just as she was changing bullets, a zombie suddenly rushed out from beside her and pounced on her. Jill was caught off guard and was hit directly into a car nearby. Bang! Just as Jill was struggling to resist, a gunshot rang out. The next second, the zombie in front of him was shot in the head. Jill pushed the body away and turned around, only to see that the man who helped her was the man just now. You haven't left yet. Jill was a little surprised. She had thought that the other party would decisively escape while she was dealing with the zombies. Unexpectedly, he not only did not escape, but also saved himself. Do you really want me to leave? Those zombies are coming again. Roca smiled and raised an eyebrow. Seeing this, Jill's anger towards him completely dissipated. She quickly changed bullets and shot again at the attacking zombies. This time Roca was there to help. All the zombies were quickly eliminated. Jill breathed a sigh of relief, and looked at the man next to her with a more favorable attitude. No matter who the other party is, at least they are comrades now. What's your name? Roca. Jill wrote down the name thoughtfully. What are your plans next? Find some like-minded people to form a force to deal with the Umbrella Corporation. Roca simply stated his purpose. Jill was a little surprised after hearing this, because not everyone can deal with Umbrella Corporation. Even the Star's agents work for the Umbrella Corporation. In Raccoon City, Umbrella Corporation is like a local tyrant, and they can't even use nuclear bombs privately. This is even more powerful than some small countries. Who are you? I am alone at the moment. Roca replied with a shrug. Jill couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard this. She thought the other party was from some mysterious organization, but she didn't expect it was just one person. What does one say about dealing with the Umbrella Corporation? If he had dared to say this on the street before, he would probably have been drowned in the saliva of the people. Who in Raccoon City doesn't make a living from the Umbrella Corporation? To deal with the Umbrella Corporation is to deal with their jobs. Chapter 211. Jill concluded that the man in front of her was either mentally ill or overestimating his own abilities. She prefers the former. So there's nothing much to say. Go ahead. Raccoon City is full of dangers. Leave here as soon as possible. Jill said and turned to leave. But she had only taken a few steps when she found that Roca had followed her. After thinking about it, she didn't say anything. She had experienced the opponent's skills, and his marksmanship was also good. In today's dangerous Raccoon City, it is a good thing to have such a person to accompany you. I'm going to see a colleague. If you want to follow me, come over. Jill came out with a mission this time. Several agents from their stars had gone to deal with some things before, but they ran into trouble later. She came out this time just to find them. Certainly. Roca whistled with a wicked smile and followed. At this time, the streets were very quiet because the residents had fled. The deeper you go into Raccoon City, the fewer people there are. On the contrary, since there is no one, there are naturally more zombies. Boom boom boom. After Jill dealt with a few zombies that were approaching, she found that more zombies in the distance were attracted by the sound and gathered around. She knew she couldn't stay for long, otherwise she would run out of ammunition and food sooner or later. Just at this moment, the roar of a motorcycle came from behind. Roca came speeding over on his motorcycle. Get in the car. Roca did not stop the car, but stretched out a hand. Jill immediately grabbed his hand, used the force to fly and sat in the back seat. Boom boom boom. With a few quick shots, the zombies around were taken care of. Then the motorcycle rushed out, leaving the group of zombies far behind. Nice skills. While driving, Roca did not forget to praise her. You're pretty good too. Jill naturally did not hesitate to praise them. If he had not found a motorcycle, it would not have been easy for the two of them to get rid of that group of exhibitors. Where is the person you are looking for? Go straight, I'll show you the way. Jill was behind him, directing the way for him, and the motorcycle was moving quickly along the street. Even though the road was blocked, it could not stop the two from moving forward. In a section of the road where all the cars blocked the road, Roca simply lifted the front of his bike and rode on the roof of the car that was in the way, and then used the car as a road to cross the obstacles again and again. Even Jill was surprised by this move. Are you a professional motorcyclist? Why do you ask that? What you did just now is not something that most people can do. Ha ha ha, then treat me as me. Roca laughed. He didn't expect that his cool performance would be mistaken for a professional motorcyclist. This was quite interesting. It was at this time. A large number of zombies poured out on the road ahead. We can't leave here. Right. Jill quickly gave directions. Roca went into the alley on the right without hesitation. After many twists and turns, they returned to the main road again. This is it. At Jill's instructions, Roca parked the car on the side of the road. Jill got out of the car and walked towards the bar. Is the person you are looking for in the bar? Roca raised an eyebrow. Yes. Jill answered simply. Then I advise you to be careful, there are a lot of zombies in there. Roca could see that there were many infected zombies in the bar, and because the place was small, it was difficult to perform well. If you are not careful, there is a risk of infection. I know. Jill answered coolly, then took out his pistol and prepared himself. In fact, she had guessed this result before coming, but no matter what, she had to confirm the life or death of her colleague. If you feel it's dangerous, you don't have to follow me. Roca raised his eyebrows when he heard this. I thought you would invite me in. Jill didn't say anything after hearing this. It seemed that they had just met for a short time, so she would not ask him to take risks with her. Okay, let's go in and take a look. Roca shrugged and followed her. Bang! Just then, a gunshot was heard from the bar. Jill was startled and quickly broke open the door of the bar, then walked in carefully with a gun and flashlight in hand. Fortunately, there were no zombies at the door. But further inside the bar hall, there are a lot of zombies. Go this way. Roca said this and took Jill's hand and walked to the other side. In fact, he had already seen the star's colleague that Jill mentioned. Request flowers. But it seems they are late. After bypassing most of the zombies, we came to a corridor. There are still many zombies in the corridor, and it is impossible to get around them. Even because of the gunshots just now, many zombies swarmed towards this side. Hurry up! Roca whispered to Jill. Jill nodded. She knew that she had to fight quickly, otherwise she would be surrounded by zombies if she delayed for too long. So the two of them nodded to each other and quickly opened fire. Boom boom boom. After a series of gunshots, the two men dealt with the zombies in the corridor and then quickly walked towards the room where the gunshots came from. Jill opened the door. I was looking at two colleagues who had already died, one of whom was obviously infected and turned into a zombie. 0, then he was shot in the head by another colleague. Another colleague just shot himself. The reason was that his arm was also bitten by a zombie. Retreat. Now that the death of my colleague has been confirmed, the natural thing to do is to leave here as soon as possible. Roca nodded. The two then left the room. However, the passage they came through was now full of zombies. Go back. Jill hurried back into the room. Roca followed and closed the door. Go through the window. Jill said this and went to the window. Fortunately, it was only the second floor, so it was no problem to jump down from here. However, just as she passed by the body of her companion who had shot himself, her colleague who had turned into a zombie grabbed her leg and then bit her suddenly. Jill was startled, but it was too late for him to shoot. Bang! The next second, my colleague's head exploded. You can't be careless. Roca raised his pistol, blew away the smoke from the muzzle and grinned. I owe you one. As Jill spoke, she opened the glass door of the balcony and jumped down. It should be twice. Roca followed closely behind. The two of them came to the street very quickly. Jill quickly shot and killed several nearby zombies, and the gunshots attracted more zombies to surround her. But by this time Roca had already started the locomotive. Seeing this, Jill quickly got into the car. Then the two of them walked away. Chapter 212. Roca and Jill rode their motorcycles through the streets and quickly headed towards the Raccoon City Bridge. Because just now Jill received a call, and Stars asked her to go to the bridge quickly to maintain order. The Raccoon City virus broke out, and all the citizens gathered at the bridge to escape from Raccoon City. But Umbrella Corporation closed off access to the bridge. You are required to have a physical examination and be clear of infection before you can pass. Crunch, we can only stop here. When they arrived at the bridge, Roca had no choice but to stop the car. Because the road ahead is completely occupied by private cars, the only way to pass is to get out of the car. After getting off the bus, the two squeezed into the direction of the crowd. Jill soon found a colleague. Peyton, what's going on here? G430, you are here. The black policeman Peyton was very happy when he saw it. The situation is not optimistic. The passage has been closed and you are required to go through inspection before you can pass through. Peyton briefly explained the situation. Bang! Just then, gunshots were heard above the bridge passage. A black-haired man in a suit put away his gun, picked up the loudspeaker and said, "You have 5 seconds to turn around." After saying that, he handed the loudspeaker to the fully armed black man next to him. The black man took the speaker and said, "The superior has authorized the use of weapons to drive them away." 1.4. Hearing this, the crowd gathered below immediately started talking. Some people thought they were too scared to shoot. Some people were terrified and wanted to flee. The scene was in chaos. Do you think they'll shoot? Roca asked Jill beside him with interest. Aren't you afraid? Jill didn't answer, but asked with some surprise. They won't shoot. Terry, a female reporter standing by, raised her camera to record it all. She didn't believe that Umbrella Corporation would really dare to shoot, because if that happened, she would expose all the crimes of Umbrella Corporation. No, they will shoot, everyone leave. Jill suddenly shouted and called on everyone to leave. The next second, gunshots rang out. Boom boom boom. The bullets hit several of the more arrogant people, turning them into sieves in an instant. Obviously this is a warning from Umbrella Corporation. Seeing that the Umbrella Corporation really opened fire, the citizens could only leave here in a panic. However, at this time the entire Raccoon City has been occupied by a large number of zombies, and returning to Raccoon City will only allow them to face these zombies. The scene was extremely chaotic for a while. There were screams of terror and cries of pain everywhere. Hurry, let's get out of here first. Looking at such a chaotic scene, Jill was helpless and could only protect herself first. So the group of 4 quickly left here. The female reporter Terry is very smart. She knows that only Jill and the black policeman Peyton can protect her at present, so she tries very hard to follow her master. Even when she saw the UBCS Umbrella Biohazard Emergency Response Team killing zombies not far away, she chose not to go over. I have to say that this choice is very correct. Because even Umbrella's Resident Evil Emergency Response Team cannot deal with the endless stream of zombies. Soon they will run out of ammunition and food, and then be overwhelmed by the zombie horde. And the other side. Roca and his 4 companions kept walking on the street. Perhaps because all the zombies were attracted by the gunshots in the distance, they encountered fewer zombies along the way. Let's find a safe place to settle down first. Jill's plan was to find a place to rest before making any plans. After running around all day, she was a little tired. And there are very few bullets left. Perhaps because of Roca's interference, the black policeman Peyton was not bitten by the zombies. I must expose the evil deeds of the Umbrella Corporation and expose them to the public. Female reporter Terry was a little excited holding the camera in her hand. She didn't expect that the Umbrella Company would do such a heinous thing and dare to shoot and drive away the citizens. Let them die in the mouths of zombies. How is this any different than Umbrella killing them? Innocent. Roca gave her a pitying look. The world is about to end, and even the T-virus was released by the Umbrella Corporation. Now they are saying that they want to expose the Umbrella Corporation's actions. Is it useful? What do you mean? The female reporter Terry glared at him. It doesn't matter. I think what you should consider most now is how to survive. Roca's sarcasm made Terry a little angry. Fortunately, Jill spoke up and said, "You two stop arguing. Roca is right. Next we have to think about how to survive." Terry was speechless when she heard this. She also knew that the current situation was very dangerous. Unable to leave Raccoon City, and Raccoon City is full of zombies. Once bitten by a zombie, you are dead. It would be better if he didn't think about it, but Terry's face turned pale when he thought about it. She is not a strong woman like Jill, she is just a reporter. Dealing with a zombie is a problem. Not to mention the hordes of zombies. To church. At this time, Jill looked towards a quiet church not far away, which should be a good place to rest. Roca narrowed his eyes, not expecting them to end up in the church after all the twists and turns. So it's time for Alice to appear next. Soon the group entered the church. "You over there, put your gun down." In the darkness, Jolie shouted to alert Jill and the other two. As expected. A middle-aged man walked out of the darkness with a pistol in hand. "Get out of here or I'll shoot." The middle-aged man shouted angrily, holding a pistol. However, looking at 3.0's shaking hands and timid tone, Jill and Peyton showed no fear at all. "I advise you to put down your gun. We just want to take shelter here for a while," Jill said in a strong tone. Seeing that he couldn't scare many people, and that the other parties all had guns, the middle-aged man could only timidly put down his gun. "How did you find him?" At this time, Jill turned to look at Roca and asked. Roca smiled and said, "Isn't he standing right there? It shouldn't be hard to find him." Yet. Jill narrowed her eyes and found that the man in front of her seemed a little mysterious. Not only were his skills and marksmanship as good as his own, but he also discovered him before himself. This is not something ordinary people can do. Chapter 213. Although Jill had some doubts about Roca's identity, he didn't think too much about it. Just like what the other party said just now, the most important thing now is to figure out how to survive, not other messy things. Snap! Jill took out a cigarette and lit it, but before she could take a deep breath, she found that the cigarette in her mouth was gone. When I turned around, I saw that Roca had a cigarette in his hand and took a deep puff. Women's cigarettes really aren't strong enough. Roca looked at the cigarette in his hand with a hint of disgust. Jill couldn't help but rolled her eyes, then don't fight. But before she could finish her words, my lord will judge. The sudden sound attracted everyone's attention. A priest in a robe came out of the church. Behold, I will bring evil spirits to the world. Looking at the priest who was full of Christian doctrines, everyone disagreed. Who still believes in Christianity when the world is ending? Can Christianity bring an end to the end of the world? Even at this time, he is still full of Christianity. Sooner or later, such people will die in the mouths of zombies. It was at this time. A faint roar came from inside Church 18. Several people looked at each other. I'll go with you and take a look. Just when Jill was about to go check it out alone, Roca spoke first. Jill naturally had no objection after hearing this. Be careful around you. After Roca reminded Peyton and Terry, he went into the church with Jill. Following the sound, the two came to a room. There was a figure in the room sitting on a chair with his back to the door. Jill's pupils suddenly shrank when she stepped forward to check. She saw an old lady who had mutated into a zombie tied to a chair, and the ground was littered with the bodies of innocent people. You're feeding her, that's disgusting. Jill looked at the priest who followed him to the door with disgust. Leave us alone. The priest shook his head with a look of pain on his face. Upon seeing this, Jill immediately drew his gun and was about to kill the old lady who had turned into a zombie, but was blocked by the priest who rushed over. Boom! The next second, 2 gunshots were heard. Then the priest and the old lady both fell down. It would be nice if all this situation could be resolved. Roca blew away the smoke from the muzzle of the gun without changing his expression. Jill didn't say anything when she saw this. The priest fed the zombies with the bodies of innocent people and he deserved to die. It would be a blessing for him to die like this. Be careful around you, there's a big guy approaching. Roca suddenly reminded. Jill frowned slightly and then looked around vigilantly. She believed that Roca would never remind her for no reason. As expected. After careful observation, she found that there seemed to be some subtle movements around her, but they did not look like zombies. What exactly is it? The next second, a black shadow flashed across the ceiling. Jill was shocked. What was that just now? A monster. Roca simply answered with 4 words. The next second, the monster on the ceiling flashed and pounced towards the two of them. The opponent was moving so fast that Jill didn't have time to shoot. He could only roll on the spot to avoid the opponent's attack. Blast blast! Before Jill could stand firm, he found that Roca did not hide, but raised his gun and shot. All the bullets hit the head of the crawling monster. Few as expected, the reptile's head was smashed open and it was dead beyond dead. This monster isn't that great. Jill looked a little disdainful at this. She had just acted as if she was facing a formidable enemy and even rolled on the ground. I didn't expect it to be solved so easily. Roca looked at her strangely. Did this girl really think that the liquor was so easy to deal with? Most people cannot hit the extremely fast liquor. Even Jill was extremely hard to hit. Moreover, it is difficult to deal with the liquor with ordinary firearms, as this guy is quite intelligent. It's not that easy to end. It was at this time. There were gunshots in the church. Not good. Jill's face changed, and then he hurried out. Roca followed closely behind. But before they reached the church, a liquor swooped down from the ceiling in the corridor. Jill's reaction was not slow at all. He dodged the attack of the liquor by turning sideways and then raised his gun and shot. Blast blast! The 2 guns in her hands were like machine guns, firing bullets non-stop. However, what she found unbelievable was that the crawling monster in front of her was very flexible. Most of her bullets were actually dodged. The few bullets that hit the enemy had no effect. How is that possible? Jill found it hard to believe, as Roca had just dealt with one so easily. Why did it become so difficult for her? For a moment she was a little unconvinced. However, when she wanted to shoot again, she found that there was no bullet in the pistol. Jill thought to himself that this was not good. As expected. The liquor pounced again without hesitation. Boom boom boom. Instantly a gunshot rang out, accurately hitting the liquor's head. Phew, it only took 3 shots to blast the liquor's head apart. Be careful, this thing is not so easy to deal with. Roca walked over slowly and said with a smile. Jill was still a little unconvinced when she saw this. She felt that she could also kill the monster with a headshot. I just wasn't prepared. Thank you. You owe me 3 times. Roca reminded with a smile. I'll pay it back sooner or later. Jill said as she replaced the magazine. Then the two of them quickly rushed towards the church hall. In the church at this time, because she heard a strange sound, female reporter Terry ran to open the door for some reason, but she didn't expect that a large number of zombies had surrounded the door. As soon as the gate opens, a large number of zombies will pour in. Fortunately, the black policeman Peyton closed the door in time, preventing the zombies from coming in. The cowardly middle-aged man whom I had just met after entering the church ran to the other side of the church in fear. Soon, a shrill scream was heard. Are you okay? Jill asked, looking at Peyton and Terry. It's okay, but the man just now seemed to have been attacked. The black man Peyton frowned and looked in the direction where the scream came from. It should be that guy. Jill naturally knew what had attacked the middle-aged man. After all, they had just dealt with 2 of them. She had no intention of checking the situation. Taking the initiative to look for the monster would be tantamount to seeking death. Chapter 214. Screams echoed throughout the church. The 4 people in the church hall looked around vigilantly. Not to mention that the huge screams will attract more zombies, there are also terrifying lickers in the darkness. But Jill was not so worried about this. After all, they had already dealt with 2 before. It was at this time. In the dark. One after another, the lickers kept approaching them from the church roof. Boom boom boom. Jill and the black police officer Peyton opened fire decisively. The lickers are very fast, they keep moving on the wall and bullets can't hit them at all. And even if they are hit, as long as they are not hit in the head, it will not affect their movements at all. Damn, no more bullets. Jill pulled the trigger only to find the pistol was out of bullets. I don't have many bullets left. Peyton kept firing as he spoke, and then there was the sound of empty bullets from the pistol. Seeing this, Jill could only look at Roca beside him. I'll leave it to you. Roca chuckled and shook his head, then looked towards the church window. Don't worry, someone will kill them for us. Jill was a little confused. Seeing the licker getting closer, she couldn't help but feel a little scared. It was at this time. The roar of motorcycles was heard outside the church. Then the church windows shattered. A motorcycle came speeding in. Several people moved to the sides. Then a motorcycle was seen knocking a licker that was about to pounce away. A blonde woman stopped the car and took off her helmet gracefully. As expected, she was Alice. Get out of the way. Alice shouted at a few people, then rode her motorcycle towards the licker on the other side. Just as she approached the licker, she did a backflip, letting the motorcycle knock the licker away, then she pulled out her pistol and blew up the motorcycle's fuel tank. Boom! The violent explosion enveloped the licker. However, this was not the end. Alice threw down her pistol and took out 2 MP5s from her back and shot madly at the lickers crawling on the wall. And he cleverly knocked down the iron chain of the fixed support above the church. Before the licker could react, he was crushed under the huge cross. Alice walked over slowly and fired a volley of bullets, completely killing the licker. But the battle is not over yet. 2 more lickers attacked Alice from the left and right. Alice wanted to pull out the shotgun behind her, but it was too late. And even with a shotgun you can only take out 1 licker. It was at this time. You left, I right. As soon as Roca finished speaking, he flew forward and did a 360-degree spinning kick, directly blowing the licker's head off. Alice on the other side did the same thing. The 2 of them killed the licker almost at the same time. Cool. Female reporter Terry looked at the 2 people's almost identical movements with some surprise. Was this probably a movie? Alice also looked at Roca with some surprise. It was only after she woke up that she discovered that her body possessed extraordinary strength, which allowed her to perform this action perfectly. I didn't expect that the other party could do it. Is he the same as himself? Thinking of this, Alice became a little closer to Roca. However, this scene made Jill very unhappy. Who are you? Alice glanced at Jill and then answered, someone who just escaped from the hospital. It was obvious that she did not answer truthfully. Seeing that he couldn't get anything out of him, Jill didn't continue asking. In this situation, Song just wanted the other party not to be depressed. We have to get out of here. The black man Peyton spoke hastily. Yes, Alice looked really cool when she rushed in just now, but she also attracted a large number of zombies, and the windows were all broken. There is no way to stop the zombies. Come with me, Roca said, motioning for everyone to follow him. Seeing this, Jill followed without any hesitation. Alice hesitated for a moment and followed. The group quickly fled from the back of the church. What on earth are we doing here? At this time, in the cemetery behind the church, female reporter Terry shouted in a state of collapse. Hey, am I the only one who is worried about when we will turn into zombies? If you don't want to turn into a zombie, shut up. Roca glared at her. This female reporter had no other skills but was very good at causing trouble. Are you yelling like that because you think the zombies are deaf? Okay, so what are your plans? Terry calmed down when he heard this. Let's find a place to stay first. Jill spoke up. I originally entered the church to take a rest, but I didn't expect there would be such a horrible monster in the church. And her pistol was out of bullets. If we continue to walk around outside, we might encounter more zombies. No, are you interested in going to the police station with me? At this time, Roca suggested with a smile, his lips slightly raised. To the police station. Jill was a little confused, knowing that they were still some distance away from the police station. Traveling this late at night is not a wise choice. What do you think? Alice was also a little curious about why he went to the police station. Roca smiled and held up a finger. First, the police station has guns and bullets. Second, there will be some like-minded people in the police station. Take them with you and we will leave Raccoon City together. How do you know there are still people alive in the police station? The black man Peyton asked doubtfully. Roca shrugged and said, the police station's defense system is pretty good. I think some people will survive. Okay, I agree to go to the police station. The black man Peyton agreed immediately. After all, he was also a policeman and had great trust in the police station's defense. Then go to the police station. Jill thought about it and nodded. Then they turned their eyes to Alice. Everyone has just seen Alice's fighting ability. In the current situation, acting together is the best option. As for the female reporter Terry, no one cared about her opinion. It's a good plan. Alice agreed with Roca's plan and decided to join this temporary team. What's more, she also wanted to find out clearly whether Roca had been injected with the T-virus like her. Well, let's get out of here quickly. Roca had already noticed the movement below the cemetery, so he asked everyone to leave here quickly. P.S. Thanks to the readers for their suggestions, I will integrate some game plots next. Chapter 215. Hey, didn't anyone ask for my opinion? Seeing that they all ignored her, female reporter Terry stomped her feet in dissatisfaction. But she didn't expect that the next second, a rotten hand emerged from the ground and grabbed her ankle. Yeah, female reporter Terry screamed in fear and kicked away the zombie arm that was grabbing her ankle. Then she found that a large number of zombies were emerging from the ground throughout the cemetery. She was so scared that she quickly chased after him. Jill, who discovered the situation in the cemetery behind him, looked at Roca with some surprise. You knew that? Certainly. Roca didn't deny it. Even if he hadn't seen the movie, he would have noticed that zombies would come out of the cemetery. After all, ordinary people might not be able to notice such a big commotion underground, but how could he not notice it? Alice was also a little surprised after hearing this. She was able to sense the danger before others. In this way, wouldn't it be easier to escape from Raccoon City? As expected. Later, under Roca's leadership, the group hardly encountered too many zombies. Roca then accurately found a car that could be started. The 5 people got in the car and drove towards the police station. No, there was a car accident ahead and there are many zombies. We can't get through. When several people arrived near the police station, they found that the road ahead was almost blocked. The flames from the explosion also attracted many 260 zombies to gather. Parking here is like walking into a tiger's mouth and providing a feast for the zombies. However, Roca still stopped the car, then took out a Gatling gun from somewhere and started firing wildly forward. Da-da-da! In the face of Gatling's metal storm of 5,000 rounds per minute, all the zombies in front were torn into pieces. No. Jill and Alice, who had just got off the car, were all stunned by the scene. I've never seen anything so fierce. If they had used this kind of firepower earlier, they wouldn't have had to run away. By the way, where did he get the Gatling gun from? Black Peyton's face was full of black question marks. How come he didn't remember that the other party had Gatlin? Have no idea. Jill narrowed her eyes and shook her head. The female reporter Terry wanted to say something, but she remembered Roca's warning and finally kept silent. Alice, on the other hand, was watching this scene with great interest, not knowing what she was thinking. Let's go in through the back door of the police station. After clearing out all the zombies in front of him, Roca turned and said to the people. Jill and the others had no objection and followed him closely. There were many twists and turns along the way, bite, but there were still many zombies, but they were all killed by Roca with a headshot. There was almost nothing to do with Jill and the others behind them. Wait, where's your Gatling gun? Jill suddenly discovered that Roca had a golden Desert Eagle in his hand. But what about that huge Gatling gun just now? Well, the Gatling gun is not convenient in the police station, so I switched to a pistol. Roca casually gave an explanation. Jill frowned. She found that she was increasingly unable to understand the mysterious man in front of her. He always did things beyond her expectations. Good marksmanship. Alice praised it. The same to you. Roca smiled. Alice was the most powerful woman in Resident Evil. She was top-notch in both shooting and fighting. He remembered that there were many Alice clones in an underground research base in Resident Evil 3. If they could be subdued and formed into an army, the combat effectiveness would be extremely strong. It would be even more perfect if they were injected with super soldier serum. Let's go. Without thinking too much, Roca was the first to enter the police station. Why is there no one here? After several people entered the police station, what they saw was a reception hall illuminated by lights, with a stone statue of Athena in the center of the hall. Why is there no one here? Seeing the familiar working environment, the black policeman Peyton looked around with some confusion, but did not see any figures. Perhaps the police station has not fallen yet. Jill spoke with a glimmer of hope. Come with me. Just as a few people were looking at the reception hall of the police station, Roca had already seen Claire's location. That's right, the purpose of bringing everyone to the police station is to find Chris's sister Claire. But Claire seemed to be in some trouble at this time. Led by Roca, the group quickly went deep into the police station. Sudden Papa, it was gunfire. Jill was shocked. The sound of gunfire proved that there were still people alive in the police station, who might be colleagues in the police station. Walk. Roca led the way without saying a word, and at the same time shot and killed several zombies in police uniforms in front of him. However, when passing through a corridor, he was blocked by a rolling door. The power system here has been paralyzed. We have to take a detour. Jill checked and found that the power to the rolling door switch had been cut off, which made her feel helpless. If we follow the settings in the game, we will have to take a detour. But this is not a game. No need to take a detour. Roca came to the rolling door, reached out and grabbed the bottom of the rolling door and lifted it up with force. Crash! The rolling door was actually lifted up. Oh my god! Female reporter Terry was stunned. Is this still a human being? He actually lifted up the rolling door. Jill and Peyton beside her looked at each other, and both could see the shock in each other's eyes. You have to know that this is equipment in the police station, and no corners were cut. It would take at least several tons of force to violently lift the rolling door. This was also one of the reasons why the two were shocked. Alice, on the other hand, was eager to try, wondering if she could lift the rolling door. What are you still standing there for? Let's go. Roca opened the shutter door, looked back at the stunned faces of the people and found them somewhat amusing, then he walked in first. The people behind him finally reacted and quickly followed. Help! Help! Just at this moment, a terrified cry for help came from the front. Come on! Roca said something to the people behind him, and then quickly rushed towards the place where the sound came from. If he doesn't hurry there, he won't have a chance to play the role of a hero saving the beauty. Under a rolling door, I saw a woman in a red leather jacket and jeans stuck under the door, trying to climb forward. But behind her, a zombie grabbed her leg. Fortunately, she kept kicking the zombie's head so she was not bitten by it. But because the rolling door was too narrow and the zombies were holding her back, she was unable to escape this time. If this continues, she will definitely get bitten on the legs by the zombies. Bang! Just then, a gunshot rang out. Then Claire found that the zombie who was holding her leg had been shot in the head. Then the rolling door was lifted up. Chapter 216. Claire stared intently at the rolling door being lifted, and then a face that was so handsome that it was a little too handsome appeared in front of her. Even though she had seen many handsome guys, she couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Are you okay? Roca came up to her with a smile and held out his hand. No, it's okay. Claire grabbed his hand and stood up from the ground. My name is Claire, what about you? Why are you here at the police station? Claire asked curiously. Just call me Roca, I came here with them. Roca said, pointing behind him. Claire also heard the footsteps. Then Jill, Alice, and others appeared before him. Are you okay? Jill asked after taking a quick look at the scene. I'm fine. Luckily Roca arrived in time. Thank you. Claire thanked him gratefully. If Roca hadn't acted in time, she would have been in great danger. You brought us here just to find her. Jill looked at Roca with a bad tone. Of course, not. Claire is just one of them, of course not all of them, and there is nothing wrong with Roca's answer. Jill naturally didn't believe his lies. She looked at Claire and asked, Who are you? What are you doing in the police station? My name is Claire Redfield, my brother is Chris Redfield, and I came to the police station to look for him. Are you Chris's sister? Jill was a little surprised. Do you know my brother? Claire was a little surprised. Jill nodded, of course, we are a team. The two belong to the Raccoon City Police Department's elite team stars, which is divided into Team A and Team B. Jill and Chris are members of the A team. By the way, the captain of Team A is Albert Weskier, a spy planted in the police station by the Umbrella Corporation. So do you know where Chris went? Claire asked quickly. I went on vacation to Europe, ahem. At this time, an injured policeman came out of the room, holding his stomach. Are you Marvin? The black policeman Peyton recognized the other person's identity. Although the two were in different departments in the police station, they had met each other several times. As long as you are still alive. Marvin sat down on a chair beside him, holding his bloody belly. He looked at the zombies at the door and said, Come in first. Hearing this, everyone entered the room. Then Roca lowered the rolling door with his backhand. Are you okay? Jill frowned and looked at the other person's bloody belly. Fine. Marvin shook his head palely. The next second Alice pointed her gun at Marvin. Seeing this, Jill immediately stood in front of Marvin and stared at Alice. What are you going to do? You should know that he has been infected. Alice said expressionlessly. You have to get past me before you can kill him. Jill also pointed his gun at Alice. For a moment, the room was filled with the smell of gunpowder. Okay, put your guns down. Roca stood in front of the two men and acted as a peacemaker. Alice, even though he's infected, at least he's still human. Promise me you won't do this again next time. Alice's expression changed slightly when she heard this, and she put down the gun immediately. You're right, but I still think he should be killed quickly. Roca didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hasn't turned into a zombie yet. Can't you give him some time to leave a last word? It is a fact that Marvin is infected, and there is no way to save him now. So at least let him finish. Besides, even if he turns into a zombie, he won't be a threat. Terribly sorry. Alice realized what he meant and apologized. She really hadn't thought of that. She should respect everyone's choice. Seeing this, Jill put down the gun and agreed with Roca's words. Even if the other party is about to become a zombie, why not give him some time? Thanks. Marvin thanked Roca, and knowing that he didn't have much time left, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Then he handed the radio to Jill. Take this radio and keep it on at all times. Maybe a colleague will respond. Jill took the radio silently. By the way, are you really Chris's best friend? At this time, Marvin looked at Claire. Yes, you just said my brother went to Europe for vacation, request flowers. Yes, he went on vacation to Europe. He left a few weeks ago. Vacation? That would be great. Claire couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when she heard that her brother was not in Raccoon City. As long as he was not in Raccoon City, it didn't matter where he was. However, what she didn't know was that her brother Chris was carrying out another dangerous mission at this time. There is another good news. I heard there is a secret passage that leads to the outside. Marvin said as he handed Claire a small hand-drawn notebook. Claire was a little confused at first. If they wanted to leave the police station, they just needed to return the same way, and there wouldn't be many zombies along the way. However, after reading the little notebook, she discovered that there was a train underground that could lead to the outside of Raccoon City. The very good. Claire was delighted. With the route map in this little notebook, they could take the train to leave Raccoon City. Jill and Alice were also very happy. I even have a new respect for Roca. Did he bring them here because he knew the police had a way to leave Raccoon City? If that's the case, this man is really reliable. Roca raised his eyebrows instead. He really wanted to say, don't be happy too soon. It's not so easy to leave Raccoon City in this way. Umbrella Corporation won't let them go easily. Then we should. Jill was about to leave right away, but when she thought of Marvin still being here, she suddenly felt embarrassed. But Marvin didn't have time to think about all that. He opened the laptop beside him with one hand, which showed some surveillance footage. It's Leon, he's not dead. Claire was a little surprised to see this figure. Who is he? Jill asked, somewhat confused. He was someone I met on the road, and he saved my life, but he got into a car accident when he arrived at the police station. Claire briefly recounted what happened between the two of them. So the explosion outside was caused by you guys. Female reporter Terry couldn't help but interrupt. It's a tanker truck. Claire corrected her. Chapter 217. Everyone, just take a rest here, we'll set off later. Considering that everyone was a little tired, Roca suggested taking a break. He wasn't tired at all. But as mortals, Jill and Peyton will get tired, and it will be bad if they run out of energy on the road. Kindness. Everyone also agreed with his arrangement very much. Before he knew it, Roca had become the captain or leader of several people. After all, his words are always so convincing. There was almost no danger from the church to here, and this alone gave everyone confidence. And Marvin is not dead yet. It was somewhat inappropriate to just abandon him like this. At least give him a ride. There are some equipment in the armory over there that you may find useful. After saying this, Marvin pointed in the direction of the armory. That's great 393. Jill was worried that she had no bullets for her pistol. And Peyton too. Both men emptied their guns in the battle at the church. There was no time to resupply along the way. Claire also only had a pistol on her. Alice did have plenty of ammunition. Would you like me to go with you? Roca asked. No, don't treat me like a little girl who knows nothing. Jill rolled her eyes and went to the armory with the black man Peyton and Claire. As for Roca, he, Alice and the female reporter accompanied Marvin, who was about to turn into a zombie. Do you have anything else to say? Say it now while you still can. Roca admired this policeman very much, but it was a pity that he didn't have the antidote for the T-virus at the moment. So I can only say sorry. Marvin looked at him and said, it can be seen that everyone trusts you and hopes you can take them away from Raccoon City. Of course I will. Roca nodded in agreement. Umbrella Corporation will drop a nuclear bomb on Raccoon City sooner or later, so they must leave as soon as possible. But before that, we have to take some people away. I hope you can do it. Marvin smiled bitterly and lay down on the chair. He felt his pocket and wanted to light a cigarette, but unfortunately the cigarette seemed to have fallen out of his pocket. It looked like it had fallen when I was fighting with my colleagues just now. Snap. Roca offered him a cigarette. Thanks. Marvin took it, took a deep breath, and then closed his eyes. After a while, bang, a gunshot rang out and the room fell silent again. Soon Jill and Peyton returned fully armed. Great, there's a lot of equipment in the armory, but it's a pity that we can't take too much. Jill was carrying a rifle and a shotgun, with 2 pistols on his waist and bullets in his backpack. He was armed to the teeth. The only drawback is the lack of heavy firepower weapons. The same thing happened to Claire and Peyton. Peyton even had a few extra bullets because he was so strong. However, when the 3 of them looked at Marvin, who had been shot in the head and was lying on the chair, their originally happy mood turned silent. After all, they were colleagues in the police station, and they still felt sad to see them die like this. Do you want to take a break? Roca asked. Jill took a deep breath and said, no, let's leave here now. Wait, Claire stopped them, let's find Leon first. Yay, okay. Roca nodded and decided to find the boy first, to prevent him from being seduced away by Aunt Wang. The way out of here is under the stone statue in the hall. You wait here for a while. I will bring Leon back. Can you do it alone? Alice inquired. No problem, I'll be back soon. Roca said this and ran to the 2nd floor. Be careful. Claire reminded. Don't worry. Roca turned around, smiled, and then disappeared into the corridor. Seeing him leave, Jill glanced at Alice without saying anything. Alice also had no intention of talking to Jill. Claire looked at the two women and felt that the atmosphere was a little subtle. It seemed that both of them were dissatisfied with each other. It was fine when Roca was there. But if he's not there, the atmosphere will become awkward. Claire had no choice but to sit down and rest, as she had to hurry on her way. The other side. Roca quickly found Leon running around the police station. "Hey, you have to come with me." As soon as his hand touched Leon's shoulder, he was grabbed by him and prepared to throw him over his shoulder. But soon Leon found that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the person behind him. He turned around in surprise and found that it was a young man. "Who are you?" "It doesn't matter who I am, what matters is that you follow me." Hearing these impolite words, Leon couldn't help but frown. He really didn't like the other person's tone of voice. "What if I don't go with you?" "Kindness." Roca raised his eyebrows, then reached out to grab him. Leon was no pushover either. He quickly turned sideways and threw a punch. Unexpectedly, the sideways movement did not avoid Roca's hand. Leon was caught and thrown to the ground over his shoulder before he could even throw a punch. Cough cough cough, the blow almost made Leon lose his breath. When he opened his eyes, he felt stars in front of his eyes. "Are you kidding me? How could this young man be so amazing? Should I follow you now?" Roca squatted on the ground and looked at Leon with interest, whose face was full of a mask of pain. Isn't this guy incapable of killing all kinds of zombie monsters? What to say now? After a long time of recovery, Leon suddenly became obedient. "You must be kidding. If you don't behave yourself you'll die. Let's go." Roca said this and strode away. Leon raised his hand and pulled out a pistol, pointing it at his back, but he hesitated to shoot. He still found it difficult to kill a human being who was not a criminal. 4.6 After a while, Leon was taken back to the reception hall of the police station. "Claire." Leon was a little surprised when he saw Claire. "Leon, I'm so glad you're okay." Claire went up to him and reminisced about the past. After all, he saved one of his people. "What are you doing?" Leon looked at Jill, Peyton, and Alice with some confusion. "We are ready to leave here. I saw on the surveillance camera that you were fine, so I asked Roca to find you. Now let's leave the police station together." Claire quickly recounted the events. "What? So this is why you came to me?" Leon was a little confused. He didn't expect that Roca would find him and take him away. "Say it earlier." "If I had told him earlier, he would definitely not resist. He would be eager to leave here." Chapter 218. For a moment, Leon looked at Roca with some resentment. If he had said it earlier, the conflict between the two would not have happened. He got beaten up for nothing. Roca chuckled. Who stipulated that he had to make it clear? Besides, wouldn't it be the same whether he made it clear or not? He likes to be direct. Jill and Claire could also see that there seemed to be some conflict between the two, but now was not the time to talk about it. According to the map, the passage under the stone statue can lead underground and then to the outside world. Claire opened the map and looked at it. But the gate is locked. Does anyone know where the key is? Jill came under the stone statue, took a look and then turned around and said, "No." Claire shook her head. The map didn't say where the key was. "In that case," Jill said as he turned his gaze towards Roca. Not only her, but even Claire and Alice turned their eyes to him. "Okay, I'll do it." Roca knew what they were thinking, so he came to the gate 18 and stretched out his hand to push it open. Is he going to open the door with his bare hands? Leon looked at Claire beside him jokingly. Yes. Claire nodded as a matter of course. Leon was stunned after hearing this, with an expression that said, "Are you kidding me? How could one push open such a thick fence door with bare hands? Didn't you see how thick the steel bars on the fence gate were?" Then the next moment, bang! The iron fences collapsed like a sand sculpture knocked over by the force of the sea. This is too easy. Leon couldn't even imagine what his eyes were like. Could it be that the fence gate was destroyed from the beginning? Let's go. Roca looked back at everyone and then entered the passage first. Jill, Claire, and the others followed closely behind him, and none of them took the fact that he pushed down the iron gate seriously at all, as if it was just supposed to be that way. Because they were used to Roca's amazing deeds. Nothing seemed so surprising in his hands. Lion still couldn't imagine it, so when he passed by the iron fences, he reached out and tried to lift them up. But after he couldn't even lift it up even with all his strength, he began to doubt himself. Is this thing really something that humans can push? The group took the elevator to the underground. The underground space is also far more complicated than people imagine. Hey, I've never been here before. The black man Peyton was surprised to see such a complicated terrain under the police station. Forget about you. Even I have never been here. Of course, I have never heard of it. Jill also said she had never been here. It seems that there are some unknown secrets hidden under the police station. Roca raised the corners of his mouth slightly and smiled mysteriously. Perhaps. Jill didn't notice anything wrong with his smile. The underground terrain is very complex, with many rooms and corridors, and it is very dark. Fortunately, they had just taken flashlights from the armory. Jill led the way according to the map. After turning several corners, they came to a place full of various pipes and instruments. It looked like a computer room of some research institute, and it emitted an unpleasant smell all the time. Just at this moment, Jill suddenly looked up at the shadows. Who's there? Jill's sudden voice made everyone a little confused. Is there someone else down here? Jill followed immediately without any explanation. Everyone followed closely behind. Soon at the end of the corridor, Jill blocked the petite figure. It's a little girl. Jill looked at the little blonde girl huddled under the collapsed cabinet with some surprise. Why is there a little girl here? Claire was also a little confused, then she squatted down and looked at the little girl huddled in the corner with a smile. Hey, it's okay, we won't hurt you, I promise. The little girl huddled in the corner, looking at them in fear without saying a word. Come, we will help you, come and hold my hand. Claire said, holding out her hand to the little girl. You need help. I'm sorry I didn't hear you clearly. Claire looked at the little girl with some confusion. I said, you are the ones who need help. This time the little girl's voice was much louder. Several people heard it clearly. Here we go. At this time, Alice was the first to notice something was wrong. When they heard her voice, everyone turned around and looked. I saw a mutated zombie crawling up from the bottom of the corridor. The zombie still had a human head, but its body had swelled up with a huge tumor. In particular, the right hand has swelled to the same size as the torso, and there is even a huge single eye on the arm. It looks extremely hideous and terrifying. Oh my god, what kind of monster is this? Claire couldn't help but scream. Even though she had seen many zombies, she had never seen such a disgusting and terrifying monster. Never mind, just solve it first. Alice raised her gun and shot as she spoke. Pitiful. Roca did not take action upon seeing this, but looked at William Birkenhead in G1 form with pity. That's right, this mutated monster is the father of the little girl Shirley who is hiding in the corner. But it's different from games. This time, this guy is facing the goddess of vengeance, Alice, the goddess of arms, Claire, Leon Li Sang Guang, and finally the beautiful sister Jill. It can be said that each person here is more powerful than the other. How to beat William in G1 form? The next second, William was covered by the powerful firepower of several people, and countless bullets hit his body, splashing blood. However, such an attack did not seem to have much effect on William. Roar! William roared and rushed towards them. Since the corridor they were in was embedded in the wall and was only 2 meters wide, there were 4 floors below. If you fall down, you will be injured if you don't die. It can be said that the terrain is really bad. However, there was no time to think about it. Facing William's huge charge, Alice, who was at the front, jumped and flipped over William gracefully, and while in the air she shot William twice on the head with a shotgun. Lion slid through the gap under William's feet. Jill had no choice but to turn over and hang on the railing in mid-air. Claire was the only one left, still shooting stupidly with her gun. Chapter 219. Get out of the way. Jill, who was hanging on the side of the corridor holding the railing, shouted a warning. But Claire looked and found that there was no room to dodge, not to mention there was a little girl behind her. She had no choice but to raise her gun and shoot, hoping to kill the monster before it rushed over. But this idea is too naive. William is the ultimate boss of the police station's underground, how could he die so easily? The next moment William turned into a galloping rhinoceros and charged over. It was at this critical moment. Roca strode in front of her and kicked her. What made several people stare wide-eyed was that the monster that was like a heavy truck crashing into them was kicked and flew backwards. This scene shocked several people so much that their jaws almost dropped to the ground. Boom! William's huge body slammed heavily on the corridor, causing several people to lose their balance and even worry that the corridor would collapse. Jill, who was holding onto the railing to avoid William, was in an even worse situation. The violent shaking of the corridor made her arms numb, and she accidentally fell down. Jill screamed in horror. But she didn't expect that she would be back in the corridor the next second. Jill, who had not yet come to her senses, hugged Roca tightly as if he had grabbed a life-saving straw. Okay, it was my mistake. Roca was a little embarrassed. He didn't expect that after kicking William out, Jill almost fell down. Except for Alice, no one realized that Jill almost fell. Alice didn't think much about it and quickly shot the man who was down. Others also reacted and began suppressing fire. William, who was kicked and struggling on the ground, was shot into a sieve. But even so, he still did not die. Instead, he struggled, knocked over the railing and fell down. This guy should be dead. Leon couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Maybe seeing this, Alice put away her gun and looked at Roca and the others. Are you okay? It's okay, I've got the card. Claire shook her head, then looked at the man in front of her with gratitude. This was the second time this man had saved me, and my gratitude was self-evident. As for the gratitude in Jill's heart, it goes without saying. Thanks. After Jill came out of his arms, she thanked him gratefully. This is the third time. Roca said with a smile. I'll give it back to you. Jill also has her own pride. Although she has been saved many times by the other party, she will definitely return the favor. Then I'll remember it. Roca grinned. It's okay now, come out quickly, we will take you away from here. Claire turned around and whispered to the little girl who was huddled in the corner. Are you sure? Of course, no problem. After hearing Claire's words, the little girl carefully crawled out. Her originally white dress became dirty, but it did not hinder her from having a delicate and lovely face. Will you help me find my mother? The little girl raised her head and asked seriously. Hearing this, everyone was silent. In this situation, everyone thinks of the worst, which means there is a high possibility that the little girl's mother has turned into a zombie. Is your mother here too? Claire asked, frowning. She should be here. I hope she is. It was obvious that the little girl was not sure whether her mother was here or not. Okay, no problem, we'll help you find her. Roca agreed to Claire's request on her behalf, since it was something that could be done along the way. Claire and Jill behind them did not object. My name is Roca, what's yours? Roca squatted down and touched the little girl's golden hair. Shirley Burton. Then Shirley, do you know where we can go out? Claire also squatted down and asked. There. Shirley pointed in the direction of the stairs nearby. Well, let's get out of here together. Can you tell us where your mother is now? I have no idea. Shirley shook her head. In fact, she had been in the police station for a week and she saw with her own eyes how the police station fell into a zombie paradise. It was not easy for her to survive under such circumstances. She had even less idea where her mother was. After hearing this, everyone was speechless. So Shirley, can you tell me who your mother is? All she knows is that she works for Umbrella Corporation and is working on a very important new drug. The group, under Shirley's guidance, came to a passage hidden in the sewer. After opening the sewer manhole cover, several people came to the underground garage of the police station. This way we can get out and find the underground laboratory. Claire said to everyone while looking at the map. The door here can't be opened. You need an access card. Jill came to the iron retractable door of the garage and took a look, then looked at Roca. Obviously, to deal with this kind of door that cannot be opened, she has already defaulted to looking for him. It was so easy for me to find you, Shirley, and everyone raise your hands. It was at this time. A fat middle-aged man dressed like a human touching a dog walked over with a gun in hand. Director. The black man Peyton looked at the fat man in front of him with some confusion. Isn't this the chief of their police station? Oh? Are you a policeman? It was obvious that the police chief did not recognize him. After all, Peyton wasn't wearing a police uniform now. Chief, what are you doing? Jill naturally knew the police chief, so he was a little confused about what he did first. Why point guns at them? Whose subordinates are you working for? Good one, the police chief obviously thought they were all police officers, but he still didn't put down his gun. I am Team A of STARS, and our captain is Albert Weskier. Jill took the initiative to reveal her identity. What? Hearing the name, the police chief was obviously angry. He pointed his gun at Jill and shot subconsciously. Bang! Careful! Leon tried to tackle Jill. But there was another figure who was faster than him. Roca came to Jill and helped her block the bullet. Roca. Everything happened in a flash, and no one expected that Roca would take the initiative to block the gun. Are you okay? Jill was also completely panicked. She hurriedly grabbed Roca and wanted to check his wound. Meanwhile, Alice and Claire have their guns pointed at the police chief. Chapter 220. What can I do for you? Seeing Jill's anxious look, Roca couldn't help but grin, then he spread out his hands. I saw a golden bullet head lying in the palm of my hand. Jill's eyes widened, she was so shocked that she couldn't speak. If she was just shocked when Roca kicked the monster zombie away just now, now she was so shocked that she didn't know what to say when she caught the bullet. Is this still a human being? Which good person can catch a bullet with his hands? Not only her, but also Claire and Leon beside her were shocked. Alice also felt that it was very absurd. She was afraid that even her body strengthened by the T-virus would not be able to catch the bullet with her bare hands. Who is this man? This is impossible. The police chief also stared at him with eyes wide open, unable to believe. As the police chief, you can collude with the umbrella company to provide convenience for them. You can do all kinds of bad things. What else is impossible? Roca narrowed his eyes and raised his hand to shoot. Bang! A 497 hole was shot through the police chief's palm where he was holding the gun, and he was sweating profusely from the pain. You mean he's colluding with Umbrella? Jill looked at the police chief in surprise, then narrowed his eyes. Then he must know a lot of secrets about Umbrella. Tell me, what do you know? I don't know anything. The police chief, who was sweating profusely from the pain, still remained stubborn. But he couldn't keep his stubbornness for long. Under the threat of his life, he told everything. In fact, this guy is a pervert who likes to collect all kinds of wild animal specimens. Later, he even included humans in his specimens. Moreover, he has been secretly supporting Umbrella Corporation's various human experiments in Raccoon City. It is simply a heinous crime. Kill him. After hearing this, Alice wanted to shoot him immediately. No one else had any intention of stopping it. The day that Raccoon City came to this has everything to do with this guy. He killed so many people, it's really not a pity that he died. Wait, however, at this moment, a woman with short black hair wearing a red suspender skirt and black stockings and high heels came out. The woman's sexy outfit shows off her hot body to the fullest, making people unable to take their eyes away. Auntie Wong. Roca's eyes lit up. This girl finally came out. In fact, he discovered from the beginning that Ada Wong was hiding in the dark. This girl seemed to want to know the whereabouts of the G-virus from the police chief, so she showed up on her own initiative. Who are you? Jill looked at the woman in front of him unhappily. I'm FBI agent Ada. I'm here to investigate the police chief. Please hand him over to me. Ada Wong said this as she walked over with her slender waist twisted, holding an FBI federal agent's ID in her hand. Jill took a look and couldn't tell for a moment whether the certificate was real or fake, but she subconsciously felt that there must be something wrong with the woman in front of her. Alice and Claire looked at each other in bewilderment at this, not knowing whether they should believe the woman in front of them. What if we don't give it to you? Jill crossed his arms and looked at the woman with an unhappy look on his face. Queen Ada was stunned for a moment and then smiled indifferently. It was obvious that she had expected this situation to happen. You should be a police officer. You should know the consequences of not cooperating with the FBI. Humph, I don't care. Now that Raccoon City has fallen, Jill doesn't care about her identity as a police officer. Even if the FBI wants to trouble her afterwards, they have to leave Raccoon City alive. In that case, you can just wait for the FBI to settle the matter afterwards. King Ada didn't expect her to be so difficult to deal with. Since the matter was impossible, she didn't force it. As for forcible robbery, she wasn't stupid enough to deal with so many people alone. Especially that man. Thinking of this, Queen Ada glanced at the man who looked very young and handsome. She had seen with her own eyes how he caught the bullet. In her many years of spy career, she had seen countless strange people, but she had never seen anyone catch a bullet with bare hands. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed it. So it's better not to have conflicts. It's weird. After waiting for Ada Wong to leave, Claire couldn't help but mutter a few words. She always felt that there was something wrong with this woman. Let's go. Roca laughed secretly in his heart. It seemed that King Aida knew that the situation was hopeless, so he left. But it seems that she is about to meet love around the corner. As expected. Just when King Ada wanted to leave, he unexpectedly encountered several zombie dogs at the corner. This made her look a little stiff. She could easily deal with 1 or 2, but if there were 5 or 6, even as an elite agent, she couldn't say she could deal with them all without any damage. But the situation no longer allowed her to think. Woof woof woof. The next second, the roaring zombie dog pounced on them. Ada Wong kept firing with both guns, killing the 2 zombie dogs in front of him, and then kicked another zombie dog over with a whip kick. When the last 3 zombie dogs pounced on her, she had already rolled away. Then the 2 guns fired bullets again, killing 2 of the zombie dogs. But the last zombie dog has arrived. She could even see the hideous and terrifying bloody mouth of the zombie dog. The next second she did a backflip. He almost dodged the zombie dog's claws. Boom boom boom. After landing, King Ada fired another shot, killing several zombie dogs completely. Looking at the dead zombie dogs, even though she was a veteran, she couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It was really dangerous just now. Even the slightest mistake could result in being caught by the zombie dogs. There is no need to say what happens when you get caught. It can be said that this was the closest she had ever been to death. We have to get out of here quickly. King Aida said this and turned to leave. But the next moment, the wall on the side was suddenly smashed open, and then a big hand grabbed it. King Ada was caught off guard and was grabbed by the neck by the big hand. Chapter 221. Looking closely, I saw that the owner of the big hand was actually a tall zombie T-103 tyrant wearing a black leather jacket. DB. King Ada struggled hard but found that the opponent's hand was very strong and he couldn't break free at all. Seeing this, she immediately raised her gun and shot the opponent in the chest at close range. But I didn't expect that the black coat on the other party was actually bulletproof. Queen Ada was now completely helpless. She wanted to kick the other person, but the suffocating feeling from her neck made her hands and feet powerless. Am I really going to die here? For a moment, Ada Wong's mind was replaying her life like a revolving lantern. As an elite agent, she was engaged in espionage work almost every moment. But I didn't expect that I would fail in this mission. This made her feel a little regretful. I wouldn't have accepted this task if I had known this earlier. Bang! Just when she felt she was about to suffocate, a muffled sound suddenly came from her ears. Then she felt the big hand on her neck loosen, and then she fell into a broad embrace. Cough cough cough. King Ada covered his neck and coughed violently, and it took him a long time to come back to his senses. She turned around and found that the person who saved her was the mysterious man. Thank you. King Ada thanked him. Roca's mouth curled up slightly. It's very dangerous to be alone here, do you want to go with us? No, no, I can handle it alone. Ada Wong refused subconsciously. Her real goal was to get the G-virus, so how could she follow the man in front of her? Your target is the G-virus, right? King Ada suddenly looked at Roca. He didn't expect that his mission was known to the other party. How is this possible? Her mission should only be known to herself. How much money will your boss give you if you help him get the G-virus? Roca asked with a chuckle. King Ada's expression changed constantly and he didn't say anything. Is it $10 million? Or $100 million? Or $1 billion? Is it worth your risking your life? If Roca remembered correctly, Ada Wong was employed by Albert Weskier, but there was another boss behind her. That is Derek C. Simmons, the current senior official of the United States. Simmons is a radical pacifist, and his personal values are to protect social stability at all costs. Simmons had planned the biohazard terrorist incident in Tall Oaks and once took over the command of the biohazard incident in Tall Oaks. He forced Helena Harbor to relax the defense around the president, eventually turning the president into a zombie. It can be said that this guy is definitely not a good person. And you have to know that as the T-virus spreads, the whole world will enter doomsday, and by then money will be nothing but waste paper. What do you want to say? Queen Ada knew at this time that the man in front of her had some intentions towards her, and she wanted to hear what this man was going to do. Are you interested in joining my organization? Your organization? That's right. I will gather some like-minded people to form a special organization and find a base where we can survive to research the antidote for the virus. When the world ends and most people in the world are wiped out, we will come out and fight with the Umbrella Corporation for this new world. Fighting with Umbrella Corporation for the world. Hearing this, even Queen Ada was somewhat shocked. She did not expect that she would hear such a secret. You guessed right. Let me tell you a secret. The Umbrella Corporation leaked the T-virus in order to restart the world. After the virus kills most people in the world, they will come out to control the world. This is the real purpose of the founders of the Umbrella Corporation. Very few people in this world know the true purpose of Umbrella. Not even Weskier knew. And now Ada Wong is one of the few people who knows. King Ada looked a little shocked. He didn't expect the truth to be like this. Umbrella Corporation would actually do such a crazy thing. And if the other party succeeds, maybe the Umbrella Corporation can really rule the whole world. Why are you telling me this? King Aida really didn't understand why the other party told him such news, and where did the other party know it from? It's simple, you're beautiful. As soon as Roca finished speaking, he put his arms around her waist domineeringly. King Ada tried to struggle but found that he couldn't move at all. The opponent's strength is surprisingly great. Request flowers. It's even bigger than the zombie just now. Oh yeah, the zombies from before? Queen Ada almost forgot about the special zombie that had just killed her. She glanced at the special zombie lying on the ground, only to find that the zombie's entire head had disappeared. It was like being blown up by something. This scene made her pupils shrink suddenly. The man in front of him was so strong that he didn't seem like a human. In addition to catching bullets with his bare hands, he could also blow the head of that special zombie apart. This is not something that ordinary people can do, right? Have you thought it through? If you follow me, at least you won't have to worry about being betrayed at any time, because any benefit I get is not as good as sharing with you. I can even give you great power and longevity. Zero Luokar really likes Aunt Wong, so he is determined to win her over at all costs. And he doesn't have time for romance or anything. He must get the woman he likes. Who are you? King Ada once again raised his inner doubts. The man in front of him was truly amazing. Not only does he boast about wanting to rule the world, but he can also grant others the power and longevity they only dream of. This is not something an ordinary person can say. You can call me Superman, or a person from another world. What? When King Ada heard this, he felt it was outrageous, like a child's wild answer. Just a moment later. She still compromised. Because she had no choice at all. The next second Roca injected the super soldier serum into her body. Until half an hour later. When Queen Ada woke up, she found that she had undergone a drastic change. Her facial senses became extremely sensitive. Not only could she hear the roars of zombies not far away, but her eyes could also see everything clearly in the darkness. Even the legs of a fly in the distance can be seen clearly. Everything around seemed to slow down. Moreover, his body became very powerful and he could hear the sound of the wind every time he threw a punch. Her strength increased by at least 5 or 6 times. This is amazing. 12. Chapter 222. Is this the T-virus? Or is it the G-virus? King Aida asked curiously. Roca shook his head, neither. This is a body cell strengthening drug with absolutely no side effects, called Super Soldier Serum. Super Soldier Serum. Queen Ada was a little surprised. She didn't expect that such a thing actually existed, and she didn't expect that Roca would actually give it to her. Could it be that this potion has some other unknown control methods? Otherwise, how could the other party let me use it so easily? To be honest, with her current strength, she would not be afraid at all even if facing that special zombie just now. She was confident that she could kill the other party within a few seconds. This super soldier serum can not only strengthen your physical fitness, but also preserve your youth and increase your lifespan. I just don't know if the T-virus still has any effect on you. Roca stroked his chin. After one's physical fitness is 5 or 6 times stronger than that of an ordinary person, will one still be infected by the T-virus? Logically speaking, the stronger a person's physical fitness is, the stronger their resistance is. The T-virus is, after all, just a virus. This seems like something to try. King Ada was somewhat shocked after hearing this. he did not expect that this super soldier serum could not only preserve youth but also increase lifespan, although he did not know how much it could increase. But if those old guys who hold power knew about this, they would probably mobilize their forces to fight for it at all costs. And such a thing is so simple to use for yourself? Aren't you afraid that you'll run away? But then again, she seemed to not want to run away anymore. Following that boss is not rude. The boss in front of me seems to be very generous. Then boss, from now on Ada Wong will work for you. As King Ada spoke, she twisted her slender waist and came in front of him, throwing him a coquettish look. Roca hugged her soft and slender waist and laughed, "You will definitely find this is a wise choice, because I will take you to see a more wonderful world." Haha, he was in a good mood after successfully getting the beauty Ada Wong. The two then returned to the garage. At this time, Jill, Claire, and the others were already getting a little anxious from waiting. However, after seeing Roca and the woman in red coming back together, they both felt a little unhappy. "Is this the matter you mentioned?" Jill crossed her arms and raised her eyebrows. "How did you bring her back?" Claire was a little confused. "Didn't this woman not go with them? She was in some danger just now, so you know. But now Ada Wong will leave Raccoon City with us." Roca didn't explain too much. He walked to the iron fence rolling door and lifted it up easily. The force was so great that the circle curtain door was severely deformed. This scene made Jill and Claire look at him as if he were a monster, and then they walked out leisurely. Because of the noise here, some zombies also came outside the garage. But there were simply not enough zombies for them to kill. Anyway, there is still plenty of ammunition. Wait, what should I do with this guy? The black man Peyton was still pointing a gun at the police chief's head. Seeing that everyone was preparing to leave, he couldn't help but ask questions helplessly. "Of course I will solve it. Do you think I'm still going to suffer this?" Roca was really speechless. He thought they would get rid of the police chief when he left. $300. Peyton nodded helplessly. After a moment. Bang. Asterisk. Peyton followed soon after. "We need to pass through Kent's gun shop over there, and then enter the sewer, where there is a road leading directly to the underground laboratory," Claire said as she looked at the map. Ada Wong came to the closed gun shop, easily opened the door and walked in. This scene made everyone look at it with new eyes. "I didn't expect this woman to have such a skill." "Don't move." Just after the few people entered the gun store, a middle-aged man pointed a shotgun at them. "Don't be nervous, we are just passing by." Jill was not afraid, she just explained in a calm tone. The middle-aged man was a little scared when he saw so many of them. Moreover, the other side had so many guns that he would definitely not be their opponent if a real fight broke out, so he slowly put down his gun. "Dad!" Just at this moment, a little girl younger than Shirley slowly walked out from behind the door. Click, click, click. This time, Jill, Claire, and the others raised their guns. Because the little girl in front of him had been infected by the virus, her eyes had turned pale and it was obvious that she would soon become depressed. "Put down your guns and don't hurt my daughter." The middle-aged man nervously raised the gun again and blocked the little girl with his body. After hearing this, everyone was silent. From what they said, we knew they were father and daughter. Needless to say, this was another tragedy. "Dad." "Yes, Amy, Daddy is here, Daddy is with you." When the middle-aged man heard his daughter's cry behind him, he immediately put down his gun and hugged his daughter tightly. Seeing this scene, everyone felt even more upset. Chapter 223. "Those damn things out there, look what they did to my daughter. There should be police among you, you should know what happened. Why did this happen? Why?" The middle-aged father cried and shouted. He was just an ordinary person, and suddenly he experienced such a thing, and his daughter was also infected by those monsters. He knew the consequences of being infected because his wife had mutated in front of him. He also solved it himself. Now my daughter has become like this too. What did he do wrong? No one spoke. Faced with this situation, they could only choose to remain silent. Roca thought about it thoughtfully, then took 2 steps forward. "How about I help her?" "You?" The middle-aged father looked at him with some doubt in his eyes, and then some hope emerged in his heart. "Can you save my daughter?" "Not sure about 18, but you can try." Roca was not absolutely sure, but after all, the original function of the T-virus was to strengthen human cells, and the super soldier serum also strengthened body cells. The only difference is that the perfect super soldier serum does not have any side effects. However, when the T-virus reorganizes and strengthens cells, it puts a heavy load on brain cells. If you can't bear it, you will become a zombie. Once you endure it, you will gain powerful telekinesis like Alice. Can the super soldier serum protect the brain? Thank you, please save my daughter. Even though the other party was not completely sure, as a father, the middle-aged man still had a glimmer of hope. Jill and Claire were a little confused behind him. When did Roca have a way to deal with the T-virus? Could he really cure this little girl? Roca didn't waste any time. He immediately took out a tube of super soldier serum and injected it into the arm of the little girl Amy. After injecting the medicine, he picked up Amy and went into the room and put her on the bed. When the drug takes effect, there may be some reaction. Whether she can survive it depends on her luck. Roca said something to the middle-aged man and then turned and left the room. Amy was left alone with her father to take care of her. How's it going? As soon as he came out, Jill couldn't help but ask with doubt in her heart. Roca shook his head, let's take a break first, and then we'll see what happens. After hearing this, everyone knew that they wouldn't get an answer for a while. So everyone rested on the spot. Half an hour later, there was some movement in the room. Roca quickly came to the room to check. With his supervision, he saw that there were 2 foreign viruses in Amy's body that wanted to take over her. That's why Amy kept struggling and screaming in pain while she was unconscious. Then, under his watchful eyes, the super soldier serum continued to strengthen Amy's cells, while the T-virus continued to destroy and reorganize them. The strengthened cells will become extremely powerful and will have no problem even after being recombined by the T-virus. Maybe it will work. Seeing this, Roca's eyes lit up. His guess was indeed not unreasonable. The super soldier serum can indeed promote the fusion of the T-virus. In this process, the super soldier serum plays a protective role, preventing the T-virus from destroying the host's brain and body. In this way, a super goddess of vengeance seems to be born. Bang bang bang! Suddenly, an inexplicable force swept through the entire room, and the mirrors and light bulbs in the room suddenly exploded. Alice at the side seemed to have noticed something. For a moment she felt a little dizzy, as if something was about to come out. Roca hurriedly supported her. Looking at the situation, it seemed that because of Amy's telekinesis awakening, Alice also awakened her superpowers ahead of time. This is actually a good thing. What happened? The sudden change made everyone a little flustered. But this situation came and went quickly. Soon the room became quiet. Then Amy slowly opened her eyes. Oh, daughter, I'm so glad you're okay. The middle-aged man watched as the traces of zombie-like features on his daughter's face disappeared, and he immediately hugged his daughter and burst into tears. Then there was some communication. Everyone found out that the middle-aged man in front of them was the owner of this gun shop, named Robert Yint. Thank you so much. Robert Kent thanked Roca many times and even knelt down. 557 After all, his daughter Amy is the motivation for him to live. If his daughter died, he would never live alone. Okay, uncle, you've thanked me many times, but your daughter is fine now, but it doesn't mean she will be fine in the future. And you know the situation outside. We have to leave Raccoon City now. Do you want to come with us? Of course, thank you for taking us away from the village. Hearing this, Robert Kent felt grateful again. He felt that the people in front of him were like God, who came to save them. Amy, are you okay? Roca bent down and touched the little girl's head. Well, thank you, big brother. Haha, just call me brother Roca. Do you feel very strong now? Kindness. Amy said as she grabbed the cabinet beside her and held it easily in her hand. Seeing this scene, the Yin family was a little shocked. Although this cabinet is not very heavy, only a few dozen kilograms, it is still not something a little girl can lift. Chapter 224. It looks like the T-virus has strengthened his body. Alice has the most say because she is also infected with the T-virus, but her body has overcome the side effects of the T-virus. All that's left is to enhance her strength, reaction speed, etc. It turned her into a Valkyrie-like existence. That means the same thing goes for the little girl in front of me. Very good. Roca nodded with satisfaction. Judging from Amy's muscle density, her physical fitness had become at least 10 times stronger. This is much more powerful than just the super soldier serum or the T-virus. It is no exaggeration to say that no one present can match Amy, not even Alice. Because Amy not only has a strong body, but also has powerful telekinesis. But she currently can't control her telekinesis very well. All of these require gradual practice. But as long as Amy grows up, she will be a powerful super warrior. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Let's go to the Underground Research Institute. After briefly instructing Amy not to use her power at will, Roca led the group out of the gun store. The main reason for saying this is that I'm afraid that Amy won't be able to control her strength and might hurt the people around her. After leaving the gun shop, everyone went into the sewer together. Along the way, Robert Kent looked at the ruins in front of him and couldn't help but ask the questions in his mind. What the hell is going on in this city? You should have heard of Umbrella Corporation. In fact, this pharmaceutical company also secretly produces biological weapons. They have created a virus that can turn humans into monsters. Ida Wong answered some of his questions. By the way, I also gave Lion some general knowledge. Who are you? Why do you know all this? Jill frowned. Few people should know about the Umbrella Corporation. She only knew about it after going through a series of events. Actually, I am a spy sent by Albert Weskier, and I have a boss behind me named Derek C. Simmons. Is it an official? Jill had heard of the name Derek C. Simmons. What is your purpose? King Ada glanced at Roca, then said, my goal is to get the G virus for them. What? Hearing this, everyone was a little surprised. I didn't expect that her purpose was this, and she was not an FBI agent but an agent. This shocked everyone. Wait, why are you saying these things? Jill was a little confused. Logically speaking, as an agent, it is impossible for her to reveal the purpose of her mission. But the other party just said it. Is this also a lie to them? Because Roca just saved my life is now his and I won't work for anyone else anymore. King Aida said as he winked at Roca. Jill and Claire couldn't help but frown when they heard this. But this reason doesn't seem to be a big problem. Okay, let's not dwell on this issue. The most important thing is that we are all in this together. We must work together to leave Raccoon City. Seeing that the atmosphere was a bit tense, Roca immediately stepped out to smooth things over. It was at this time. There were bursts of terrifying roars coming from the sewer. Now everyone stopped chatting and prepared their guns. Everyone had a premonition that the next battle would be a difficult one. As expected. As soon as I turned the corner, I encountered a monster that looked like an infected shark. Roar! The zombie shark roared and rushed out from the huge sewer pipe, squeezing out the garbage and smelly water in the pipe. Oh damn, solve it quickly. Don't let it get close. Boom boom boom. Accompanied by a hail of bullets, the zombie shark was shot into a sieve by the metal storm. This zombie shark looks very large and intimidating, but it's actually not strong at all. It even looked fragile due to its rotting body, and was easily shot through the head by a bullet. After dealing with the zombie shark, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If possible, no one wants to walk around in the stinking sewer. Fortunately, there are passages and ladders in the sewers for employees to walk on. Dot is here. After some searching, they soon found the elevator leading to the underground laboratory. Take the elevator and enter the institute. As soon as I pushed the door open, I saw a woman in a white coat squatting down to check an infected zombie. Who are you? Jill stepped forward and asked. Qian Zhao Zhao, she is Annette Birkin. Ada Wong said after pulling out his pistol and pointing it at the woman. Mom! At this time, Shirley broke free from Claire's hand and ran towards the woman in white. Shirley. Annie Platinum looked at her daughter with some surprise. She had been busy with work and never expected her daughter to appear here. In fact, she had lost contact with her daughter before. I thought my daughter was in danger. You are actually the daughter of Annie Birkin. King Ada did not expect that the little girl who had been beside her was actually the daughter of Annie Platinum. In fact, she had been looking for Annie Platinum in order to get the virus from her. Chapter 225. You are an agent sent by the Umbrella Corporation, right? You want the G virus? Don't even think about it. Annie Platinum said this and left Shirley behind and ran away. Don't run. Jill wanted to ask some more questions, but she didn't expect the other party to leave Shirley and run away. She hurriedly chased after him. Unexpectedly, Annie Platinum turned around and opened fire. Bang! Jill had no idea that the other party would suddenly shoot, and she had no time to react. At the critical moment, Roca stood in front of her as usual and did not make any move to catch the bullet. All the bullets hitting him were like tickling him. Ms. Annie Platinum, abandoning your daughter and running away is not a good habit. I hope you can reflect on this. Roca doesn't like Annie Plume because in this woman's eyes, research is always more important than her husband William and her daughter. They gave their daughter Shirley little parental love. Such people are simply not fit to be parents. Hearing this, Annie Plugin came back to her senses from her shock. Who are you? It doesn't matter who you are, what matters is that you are under our arrest now. As Roca spoke, 963 took the gun from his hand and motioned for Jill to go up and catch him. Before he could even say thank you, Jill immediately stepped forward and handcuffed Annie Plugin. You can't do this, you can't let him go on, or we'll all die. Annie Platinum wanted to struggle, but without a gun, how could she be a match for Jill? Mother. Shirley looked at her mother worriedly, but was sensible enough not to go over. Don't worry, Shirley. We are just going to catch your mother and take her away from here. Roca rubbed little Shirley's head and smiled. Really? Of course, although your mother researched the virus for the Umbrella Corporation, she was not the mastermind after all. There were many people who caused the disaster in Raccoon City, and Annie Platinum was not even one of them. Besides, he had no intention of taking revenge on Raccoon City. This is not what he should do. Who is he you are talking about? King Ada was somewhat interested in the he that Annie Platinum mentioned. He has mutated. The bodies over there are his. If we don't get rid of him, we will all die here. Annie Platinum said with horror. After hearing this, everyone had some guesses. It looks like it's infected. Alice shrugged nonchalantly. They have never been afraid of infected zombies or anything like that. Boom. It was at this time. The wall not far away was actually knocked over, and then a William G2 form appeared. This guy is not dead after all. Moreover, compared to the previous G1 form, the G2 form at this time has mutated again. G2 is what the creature looks like after a certain period of time after being infected by the virus. The G creature has grown its own head and is gradually replacing William's original head. But William still retained his ability to think, his right eyeball became even bigger, and his fist evolved into a giant claw. The left hand and both feet began to transform into monster forms, showing new powers. It looks extremely hideous and terrifying. This monster again. Although William had changed his appearance, everyone recognized him at a glance. Roar! Suddenly William roared. Immediately afterwards, monsters that looked like tumors began to crawl out of the sewers. This guy is a G-adult, a monster hatched after William injected genes into the human body. It looks a bit like an alien, but is much worse than an alien. It looks like a tumor, moves slowly and is difficult to attack. The only point is that it is quite meaty. Needs a vital hit to kill it. In fact, these are all failed G-adults. And William has been chasing after Shirley because Shirley is the most perfect G-adult incubator. Because the two are related by blood. Once the G-adult is hatched, it will be the most perfect G-adult. So William has always wanted to inject some G-virus into Shirley's body. The father chased his daughter and wanted to inject something? This seems a bit messy, doesn't it? Roca couldn't help but complain in his heart. Is it okay to leave it to you? Of course. Jill answered first. This time the terrain was not as narrow as last time, and there was no risk of falling. At most you'll fall into a stinky ditch. Just leave it to us. King Ada also stood up. She couldn't wait to test how strong she was now. The battle is about to begin. Blast blast! Alice, Jill, Ada Wong, Claire, and Leon, the Black Man Peyton and Robert Kent were shooting at the monster frantically. Countless bullets formed a metal storm. The G-adults simply couldn't withstand such firepower and were shot into sieves in an instant. William, who evolved into G2, has thick skin and tough flesh, and the damage caused by ordinary bullets is limited. Roar! William roared and rushed towards the crowd. Seeing the same trick being used again, Jill gritted his teeth but had no better solution. Even with a shotgun in his hand, he couldn't stop the opponent. It was at this time. Ada Wong and Alice rushed forward at the same time. The two seemed to have some kind of tacit understanding and kicked William's head at the same time. Under the force of the two men, William's huge body stopped charging and staggered back a few steps. Seeing this, the two men immediately seized the opportunity to continue their attack, frantically suppressing William's actions. Chapter 226. Get out of the way. Just at this moment, Claire shouted, and then took out 2 grenades from somewhere and threw them out. Seeing this, Wang Ada and Alice immediately moved away. Boom! The grenade exploded immediately, enveloping William in the flames. However, this kind of attack is only effective against G1 William, but it is not as effective against G2 William. This only caused some injuries to it, but did not kill it. However, even so, William fell into a brief confusion. Seeing this, everyone naturally did not want to miss the opportunity to beat the downed dog, and they all took out their weapons and attacked him. Faced with this kind of fire suppression, even William, who has thick skin and flesh, would be killed. However, it was at this moment. There was a vibration in the sky. Then 4 T-103 tyrants wearing green military coats attacked. Damn it, how could there be such a monster? Jill cursed loudly. It was already difficult to deal with William, and now there came this monster. Compared to William, the T-103 tyrant is also quite powerful, and the green military coat on his body is bulletproof. Ordinary firearms are unlikely to be effective. Completion. Annie Birkin felt extremely desperate when she saw this scene. She was naturally familiar with the T-103 tyrant wearing a green military coat. William alone is difficult to deal with, and now there are so many T-103 tyrants. It's impossible to win. They will all die here. I believe in Brother Roca. On the other side, unlike Annie Birkin, Shirley firmly believed that they would win. Although they were only together for a short time, Shirley believed that Brother Roca would definitely deal with these monsters. Hey! Do you need help? At this time, King Ada and Alice teamed up to deal with William. Jill could only dodge awkwardly under the attack of a T-103 tyrant. Claire and Leon, together with a black man named Peyton and Amy's father Robert Kent, were in danger under the attack of the T-103 tyrant. It was almost like being beaten up. Their weapons had little effect on the T-103 tyrant. Fortunately, the T-103 tyrant was not equipped with any weapons and moved relatively slowly, otherwise they would not have been able to hold on for long. Seeing this, Roca decided to take action himself. This was not a game, so there was no such thing as forced blood deduction. If the defense is not broken, it is not broken. If you want to deal with the T-103 tyrant, it is best to use high-powered weapons, such as RPG, howitzer, or high-powered sniper rifle. Otherwise the tyrant's fist will let you know what cruelty is. It is almost impossible for ordinary people to resist the tyrant's terrifying power, and being hit will either result in death or injury. Come and help. At this time, the bullets were all used up, and Jill, who had no time to change the magazine, was almost unable to hold on. Come on, Roca grinned, then patted the head of the little girl Amy beside him and told her to stay where she was and not go anywhere. The next moment he disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in front of the T-103 tyrant. He raised his hand, grabbed its head and lifted it up. At the same time, Kane, the Umbrella Corporation's security chief who was far away in Raccoon City, saw a shocking scene through the monitor in the eyes of the T-103 tyrant. How is it possible that someone lifted up the T-103 tyrant with one hand? You should know that the weight of the T-103 tyrant is over 200 kilograms. How can an ordinary person lift it with one hand? Investigate this person for me. Kane immediately asked his technical staff to start investigating and verify the identity through facial shape. But what surprised him was that there was no information about this person in the database. Request flowers 0001 440 2218 Fila 1023100000. How is this possible? It can be said that as long as the umbrella company wants to investigate someone, there is no one that cannot be investigated. It is no exaggeration to say that even what kind of underwear the President of the United States is wearing today can be investigated. But the information of the man in front of him was blank, as if he appeared out of thin air. This is absolutely impossible. Either the other party used extremely advanced disguise skills, or had plastic surgery. Otherwise, it would be absolutely impossible to investigate the identity. At the same time, Kane also remembered that a T-103 tyrant had captured an agent before, but lost contact the next moment. Though logically speaking, this is something that should not happen. It is impossible for someone to destroy the T-103 tyrant in an instant. Otherwise, the information will be sent back. But the T-103 tyrant did lose contact for a moment. This made Kane wonder if it had something to do with the man in front of him. It was at this time. In the surveillance footage, the man who caught the T-103 tyrant suddenly smiled at the surveillance footage. The signal was interrupted the next second. It's him, definitely him. Now Kane was certain that it was the man in front of him who destroyed the T-103 tyrant in an instant, which was simply an impossible task. But it really happened in front of him. Kane was somewhat excited. Could it be that this man was a perfect candidate for the T-virus, and his combat power was already enough to crush the T-103 tyrant? Or maybe a G-virus fusion? Is it a T-virus or a G-virus? He must get to the bottom of this issue. Give the order to deploy more T-103 tyrants and equip them with advanced weapons. Oh, and also release the Goddess of Vengeance. In order to find out what was going on with this man, Kane issued several orders in succession. Chapter 227. They even deployed more T-103 tyrants and the newly modified Nemesis. This Goddess of Vengeance was originally used against Alice. Since Alice is also in the opponent's team, just throw them all in. I must find out the situation of that man. He just didn't believe that so many T-103 tyrants and Nemesis would not be able to obtain each other's information. At the same time, after casually crushing the head of a T-103 tyrant, Roca attacked again and killed several other T-103 tyrants in succession. At this time, King Ada and Alice also defeated William, who was like an invincible cockroach. You're pretty good at it. After dealing with William, Alice looked at Ada Wong with some surprise, because Ada Wong's performance just now was even more impressive than hers, which was really unexpected. You're pretty good too. King Ada admires Alice even more. You know, she was injected with super soldier serum, so she has strength and speed far beyond ordinary people. But Alice can perform almost the same movements as her. This is really unbelievable. However, what Ada Wong didn't know was that Alice was not an ordinary person, she was a super soldier who had perfectly integrated the T-virus. In terms of physical fitness, he may not be as good as Ada Wong who was injected with super soldier serum. But if telekinesis is used, Ada Wong may not be Alice's opponent. Are you sure it's been fixed? Seeing the two of them chatting, Roca walked over helplessly and said, "Isn't it dead yet?" Hearing this, Claire looked at the monster on the ground with some surprise. The monster was like a puddle of mud after being exploded from the inside by a grenade. It's really unbelievable that he didn't die like this. Wong, Ada and Alice also looked at the monster with some confusion. As expected. Even though it had turned into a pile of rotten meat, it was still slowly wriggling. Then the rotten flesh actually combined together and turned into a crawler-like shape, and extended tentacles to sweep away all the surrounding zombies, G-adults and T-103 tyrants. Then it absorbed them at a rapid speed. And as he continued to absorb the flesh and blood of the zombies, William's body continued to expand. It seems that it has skipped the G3 form and evolved towards the G4 form. In this form, William's entire body looked like a tumorous geometric body, with sharp spikes growing out of many parts of his hands and feet, and his body size reached 5 meters. Facing such a behemoth, even Wong, Ada and Alice stepped back subconsciously. He's evolved again. Annie Birkin looked at this scene with a complicated expression. She felt a little regretful. If she had not hesitated and killed William directly before, he would not have become like this. How should they deal with this monster? Although that man is powerful, can he defeat William in his current form? Hey Roca, can you still solve it? Faced with this monster, Jill had no intention of going forward, so he could only ask Roca who was standing beside him. If Roca can't do it, then the only option is to escape. They have almost no chance of winning against such a monster. And all the grenades have been thrown just now. She didn't think that the monster could be defeated with the guns in everyone's hands. Why don't you just run away? The female college student Claire was also a little timid. This monster was beyond her imagination. It was absolutely impossible to win. Everyone hurry up, I'll cover you. Alice shouted to everyone, shotgun in hand. Even she had no intention of fighting this monster. Fighting this monster in such a small space is simply seeking death. Snap. Roca slowly lit a cigarette and took a deep breath. No, everyone, please stand back a little, don't get splashed with blood. Everyone was a little surprised to hear this, but they still stepped back as he said. Roar. At this time, William in G4 form had already jumped down from the air. It is indeed quite intimidating to see such a huge body swooping down. But the next moment, Roca slapped forward as if he was slapping a mosquito. Pa William in G4 form was like a mosquito in a cell, and was slapped to pieces. The rotten flesh mixed with blood was slapped all over the wall, almost covering the entire wall. This scene is extremely shocking. It made everyone behind him stunned. Oh my god, no way! My god, am I seeing this right? This is too outrageous. It feels like a dream. Oh my god, this is not scientific. In fact, she didn't think that Roca would be able to easily deal with G4 William. But no one could have imagined that Roca would slap the huge monster to death with just one slap, just like slapping a mosquito that had sucked enough blood, and slapped it into pieces. Isn't it, bro? They just shot him in the face for a long time before beating him half to death. You actually slapped him to death? If you don't know, you might think they are using toy guns? Is that monster so fragile? The strong contrast made several people feel unreal. Ada Wong took a deep breath. She finally understood why Roca had injected herself with the super soldier serum so easily. Feelings are only useful to ordinary people. In the eyes of the other party, it may not be considered a precious thing at all. Now she began to believe that Roca was from another world, or that Superman was real. Chapter 228. Okay, let's go. Roca, holding a cigarette in his mouth, acted as if he had done something insignificant, and then asked everyone to leave. Everyone came to their senses and looked at each other and followed. This is the road leading to the underground train. Once we get on the train, we can go directly to the outside of Raccoon City. Claire said to everyone excitedly while looking at the map. Hopefully we can leave safely. Jill took a deep breath. There were so many troubles along the way. If it weren't for Roca, they might not have been able to get here. She just hoped that the road ahead would be smoother. But obviously the opposite happened. Ding-ling-ling, suddenly a crisp sound was heard. Where is the phone ringing? Everyone stopped and looked around in confusion. Finally, I found the phone number I remembered in a laboratory. Do you want to answer it? Jill came to the phone and turned to look at Roca and asked. Take it. Roca nodded. He was also a little surprised that someone called him at this time. Seeing this, Jill answered the phone without saying a word. Hello, thank God you finally got the call. A middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the phone. Who are you? Jill asked with a frown. I can help you escape from Raccoon City. I'm sorry, we don't need it. As long as they could take the subway, they could escape, so Jill decisively refused. No, you need my help. The Umbrella Corporation cut off the power supply to the Underground Research Institute not long ago. Unless you can walk out of Raccoon City within half an hour. What's the meaning? Jill frowned, somewhat confused about what this meant. It means that Umbrella Corporation will drop a nuclear bomb over Raccoon City in 1 hour, and you have 1 hour to leave. It will destroy everything in Raccoon City. Everyone fell silent after hearing this. What the hell does that mean? The black man Peyton couldn't help but curse. It is clear that Umbrella Corporation wants to destroy all sources of infection and evidence. Alice knew exactly why Umbrella Corporation did this. Damn, they're trying to cover up the past with this. It's impossible, the TV news will report everything. How dare they do this? Launch a nuclear bomb on a city. They will use the nuclear power plant explosion as a cover-up, and a tragedy will happen. Umbrella can't cover up everything. Impossible? Peyton, you were at the bridgehead at the time, and the Umbrella Corporation opened fire directly at the crowd. Everyone fell silent when they heard this. Everyone knows this is true, Umbrella Corporation will really launch a nuclear bomb to destroy everything. We have to leave Raccoon City within the hour. Alice looked up at everyone. Roca, why don't you speak? Jill looked at Roca, but found that he didn't look worried at all. You know, that's a nuclear bomb. Who isn't afraid? But no matter who is afraid, Roca is not afraid. First ask this person what he wants to do by calling. That's right. Jill almost forgot to ask about this. Tell me, how are you going to help us leave? What are your conditions? My conditions are very simple. As long as you promise to take my daughter Angela away from Raccoon City, I will show you a way. You only need to seize the helicopter in the hands of the Umbrella Company and you can leave Raccoon City. So where is your daughter? Jill asked. You just need to leave the underground, and I will show you the way. Who knows if you are deliberately leading us out of the underground? Claire retorted, she didn't quite believe the other person. Who are you? Alice asked. Charles Ashford. Are you a researcher of the T-virus? Alice recognized the other person's identity in an instant. How do you know? Jill doubted the truthfulness of what she said. The name is indeed T-virus researcher. Ida Wong stood up to confirm Alice's words because she also had a relationship with Charles Ashford. Of course, Charles Ashford was only a researcher of the T-virus, not its discoverer. This is different from the movie and is more like a game setting. But what's important now is not this, but whether they should trust each other. The underground train has indeed lost power, and the train has been destroyed by the monsters sent by the Umbrella Corporation. Roca looked directly underground and found that there was indeed a power outage, and the Umbrella Corporation also sent out a T-103 Tyrant. It is obvious that their every move is under the surveillance of the Umbrella Corporation. In this case, there is only one way to go. Roca took the phone from Jill and said, "We agree to your request, but I hope you can try your best to save your life. We will come to you after we find Angela." He remembered that Charles would be killed by Kane because he did not cooperate with the Umbrella Corporation. He still needs this talent. Try to keep it as much as possible. Charles was certainly not a fool. After hearing what he said, he naturally understood that his actions seemed to have been discovered by the Umbrella Company. It's just that Umbrella Corporation hasn't dealt with itself yet. In fact, he is not that important to Umbrella Corporation. Chapter 229. I understand, please rescue my daughter. After knowing that Umbrella Corporation may take action against him at any time, Charles will naturally restrain himself. All this was just to see my daughter. After hanging up the phone. On the way, the Umbrella Corporation will definitely send more biological weapons to deal with us, so everyone must be careful. Roca looked at everyone seriously. Well, we will be careful. Everyone knows that the road ahead will be difficult. Not only will they encounter zombies, but they will also have to face the biological weapons of the Umbrella Corporation. No one knows when Umbrella Corporation's biological weapons will appear. Therefore, we must be fully prepared to deal with all situations. Roca didn't waste any words and immediately led the way towards the ground. Pass through the sewers again along the way. However, just as they were leaving the sewer, Roca stopped everyone and pointed upwards. Everyone understood instantly that it seemed that the biological weapons sent by Umbrella Corporation were already lying in ambush outside. Once they appear they will be attacked violently. And Roca discovered that even the T-103 Tyrant was equipped with a Gatling machine gun and the evil god of revenge transformed by Matt. Equipped with a rocket launcher and a Gatling gun, the nemesis is no less threatening than the T-103 Tyrant. Even the one who was the biggest threat to them. You have to plan carefully how to fight. This time Roca is not prepared to do it all by himself. My plan is this. By observing the positions of the T-103 Tyrant and the evil god of vengeance, Roca arranged a battle plan for everyone and distributed some heavy firepower weapons. These weapons were all used by him before, including Barrett heavy sniper rifle, RPG, howitzer, Gatling gun, etc. Enough to deal with these tyrants. According to the plan, Jill threw a smoke bomb up from the sewer entrance. The smoke bomb released a large amount of smoke instantly when it exploded, attracting the attention of the tyrants. But because no one was seen coming out, the T-103 tyrants did not rush to attack. At the same time, Alice and Ada Wong overturned the manhole cover on the other side, crawled out, and used RPG and Barrett sniper rifles to launch a sneak attack on the T-103 tyrants. Facing such heavy weapons, even the Gong 103 tyrant wearing a bulletproof military coat is useless. This wave of sneak attacks alone killed several T-103 tyrants. The god of vengeance reacted and began to fire Gatling guns at the two men. Suppressed the firepower of the two. Unexpectedly, Jill, Claire, Leon and others all rushed out from the smoke. For a while, the T-103 tyrant was beaten back step by step. Although the T-103 tyrant is controlled by the Umbrella Corporation, it can never compare to the tacit cooperation of a few people. However, even so, when the T-103 tyrants reacted, they put Jill and his men in danger. This battle is not that easy to fight. But it is also very exciting. The protagonists are worthy of being protagonists. Even when they are at a disadvantage, they can still show their strength. Especially Claire, the female college student. Is she really a female college student? Her performance was even better than Jill's. Even in a critical moment, he remained calm, which is commendable. More than 10 minutes later, the battle is finally over. Although Jill and Claire were injured, they couldn't hide the smiles on their faces. Because they finally defeated the biological weapons of the Umbrella Corporation with their own abilities, which is something to be proud of. Beep! Just then, a bus drove over. Roca leaned out of the car window and shouted, "Get in the car!" When everyone saw it, they got on the bus without any further ado. In fact, the sound of fighting here has attracted most of the zombies in Raccoon City. If they don't leave now, it will be difficult to leave. Just now, Roca was not just watching the show, but went to get a bus. Well done! Roca praised everyone generously. Few thanks to the weapons you gave us, otherwise we would have no chance of dealing with those monsters. Claire let out a breath. That's right. Wang Ada agreed very much, because even if she was injected with the super soldier serum, she might not be able to deal with so many tyrants. Those weapons played a key role in this battle. But then again, where are all those weapons of yours hidden? Jill asked, somewhat confused. Roca suddenly took out the weapon. Although he had seen this scene before, he never asked about it. Now she couldn't help but ask out of confusion. Do you understand space technology? Spatial technology. Hearing this unfamiliar word, everyone was confused. You guys should know about the space ring, right? It's similar to that. Is it the kind in the novel? King Ada guessed with a strange look on his face. Haha, that's Kai. Roca laughed and didn't explain much. But everyone became even more confused when they heard it. Chapter 230. Raccoon City Elementary School. With a creak, a bus stopped at the school gate. This is it. Everyone, clean up the zombies nearby. Roca said as he walked towards the school gate. I'll go with you. Alice said as she followed. And me. Jill followed unwillingly. King Ada wanted to say something, but Roca shook his head and refused. We need to leave some people here, and we can go in and find Angela. No one objected to this. As for Annie Birkin, Shirley, Amy, and the others stayed in the car. Outside the bus, Claire, Ada Wong, Leon, Peyton, and others occupied the four sides of the bus, and any zombies that approached would be killed. However, Umbrella Corporation was still unwilling to give up and once again sent the remaining T-103 tyrants to surround them. Damn it, I must test his strength this time. Fire from a distance. Kane, the head of Umbrella Corporation's Security 277, roared. Shooting at the school? One of his men asked. No, fire at that car. Kane changed his mind temporarily. He wanted to see if that guy could come to the rescue in time. This way he could find out the opponent's strength. The men under his command had no objections. They began to control the T-103 tyrant to get closer and closer, and then directly destroyed it from a distance of 100 meters away from them. In an instant, Gatling bullets swarmed towards the bus like a metal storm. Shirley couldn't help but scream in the car. By the time Ada Wong and Claire reacted, it was too late. Faced with countless bullets, they could only find cover on the spot to dodge. But inside the car, you're not so lucky. Gatling bullets were tearing through the car body. The bus's thin iron sheet could not stop the Gatling bullets at all. Just at the moment when everyone in the car was about to be torn apart by bullets, the little girl Amy suddenly stood up. In her eyes, the bullets seemed to have slowed down and were clearly visible. Then a terrifying telekinesis burst out. All the bullets were reflected back. Even the bus was destroyed by the terrifying telekinesis, and the entire ground was swept towards where the T-103 tyrants were. How is it possible? Looking at the surveillance footage, Kane was so shocked that he was speechless. He didn't expect that the inconspicuous child in the car actually had this ability. What on earth was it? Unfortunately, before he could figure it out, the screen went black. Several T-103 tyrants were destroyed by this blow. Ada Wong, Claire, and Leon were all stunned by Amy's outburst. They never expected that she could burst out with such terrifying power. What is this? Superpowers? This is too outrageous. The other side. Roca, who had entered the school, had already noticed the situation here, but he did not rush to rescue. He also did not expect Amy to suddenly explode. This power is pretty good. Just a burst of telekinesis was enough to destroy several T-103 tyrants, which was much more powerful than Alice's telekinesis. There's something going on outside. Alice and Jill both heard the noise outside and went to check it out immediately. Bayak, but he was persuaded by Roca's words. Don't worry, they have solved it. Has it been resolved? Alice and Jill were a little confused. The noise just now was so loud that it seemed unusual, and the sound of the Gatling guns was so frequent. Can they really solve it? However, the noise outside had disappeared by now, so they were not too anxious. They still have great trust in Roca's words. I want to ask if you have also been injected with the T-virus. Along the way, Alice wanted to ask this question, why is Roca so powerful? Was it caused by the injection of the T-virus like her? Jill was a little surprised to hear this question. She even wondered if the T-virus could really give people such powerful strength? Of course not. Roca shook his head with amusement. Then why? You have to know that the T-virus is not the only thing in this world that can give people power. Roca didn't explain too much. At this stage, Alice was just a companion and there was no need for her to know so much. Alice nodded thoughtfully after hearing this and didn't ask any more questions. Although she felt a little regretful that the other party was different from her, she was not too disappointed. We're here. There are a lot of little zombies and zombie dogs inside. I'll leave them to you. Roca led the two to a classroom and opened the door. Leave it to us. Jill was the first to enter the classroom with a gun. The classroom was full of children who were in class and turned into zombies. They were obviously less dangerous than adult zombies. The biggest threat to them is actually the zombie dogs. Although no one knew why there were so many zombie dogs in the classroom, with the cooperation of the two of them, they were able to solve the problem safely. Roca went to the storage room next to the classroom and brought out the little girl Angela. She is Angela. Jill was a little surprised to see the little girl. She didn't seem to expect that the little girl was still alive with so many zombies outside. In fact, before coming here, she was mentally prepared for the little girl to turn into a zombie. Well, the little guy is quite smart. He knows how to hide and not make any noise. Roca smiled and nodded. Although Angela is still young, she is very sensible. When the zombie outbreak occurred, she was originally picked up by the Umbrella Company's vehicle, but she had a car accident and overturned on the road. Fortunately, she was smart and quickly ran back to school and hid. Chapter 231. Just when Roca and the others were preparing to leave, suddenly two figures appeared at the door of the classroom and pointed guns at them. Who? Alice and Jill reacted quickly and raised their guns, pointing them at each other. Don't shoot, it's all a misunderstanding. Seeing that the other party was not infected, he immediately pressed down the gun of the man next to him with a small black gun wearing a hat. I didn't expect that someone would come here. Alice and Jill put down their guns when they saw this. Let me introduce myself, my name is Aja and this guy is called Carlos. As soon as Xiao Hei Aja introduced Carlos who was standing next to him, he started coughing. When did you get infected? Alice knew at a glance that the other person was infected. 3 hours ago. Carlos answered honestly. Hey Xiao Hei Aja on the side was startled, you should have said you were bitten earlier, I was with you. If you are with someone who has been bitten, you never know when you will be bitten. This is very dangerous. If Aja had known this earlier, he would not have gone with Carlos. Alice saw this and immediately said, do you need me to help you get rid of it now? Perhaps because of what Roca said before, Alice did not immediately point the gun at Carlos. Oh no, I don't think I can hold on. Carlos coughed as he finished speaking, his face becoming even paler. He naturally knew the consequences of being infected, but not everyone has the courage to commit suicide. Besides, it's not the final moment yet. How about selling your life to me? Roca said with interest. He was still somewhat interested in the male protagonist Carlos. After all, everyone knew that this guy smoked the most delicious cigarette in the universe. It can be said that this guy is a capable and principled person. Do you have any idea? Carlos was a little surprised to hear his words. You are lucky. I have the antidote for the virus. Roca opened Angela's backpack and took out the T-virus antidote that Charles had prepared for Angela. There are 3 more antidotes. That's enough. X. Alice and Jill looked at the spiral tube-shaped object with some surprise. This is the antidote for the T-virus. How is it? Roca said as he looked towards Carlos. If this guy is willing to work for him, he wouldn't mind injecting him with a T-virus antidote. Hey, how could you do this? Kindness. Just as Xiao Hei Aja was about to say something, he was glared back by Roca. Give the T-virus antidote to others for free? What a joke. They were just strangers, and he was not as kind as Alice. Do I have a choice now? Carlos smiled bitterly with a pale face. He also thought about robbing directly, but when he looked at Alice and Jill who were fully armed, he thought better of it. What can he grab in this state? I promise. From now on, you are my boss, and the only boss. In fact, he had no choice at all. If he didn't want to become a zombie, he had to agree. Smart move. Roca raised the corner of his mouth slightly and then took out a tube of T-virus antidote and injected it into Carlos. In just a moment, Carlos felt much better. It seems to be working well. Let's go and get out of here. The group left the school quickly. However, after seeing the situation at the school gate, everyone was a little surprised. It seemed as if a natural disaster had occurred near the bus. Not only was the roof of the bus blown off, but the ground in front of the bus also seemed to have been plowed. Request flowers. This is too exaggerated. Oh my god, what on earth happened here? The black man Aja stared at everything in front of him with wide eyes. In fact, they all heard the noise just now, but they didn't expect the scene to be like this. Even the ground was turned up, and it extended to dozens of meters away. This is too outrageous. Stop talking, let's find a car first. Roca stopped Alice and Jill from asking questions. The most important thing now was to find a car and then go to the location designated by Charles to take a helicopter. After hearing this, everyone took action immediately. 00 After a moment, 2 cars drove towards the city hall. Are you sure it's the city hall? How many helicopters are there? There are 3. In the car, Jill was talking to Charles. 3 helicopters? That should be enough. Jill counted and found that there were already 14 people in the team. If 2 helicopters squeeze together, they should be able to carry all the people. However, Roca discovered that Charles was lying. He could see the situation at the city hall, where there was only a helicopter. What does this guy want? I see. When Roca saw the Umbrella Corporation security personnel lying in ambush near the city hall, he immediately reacted. It seems that Charles has already cooperated with Umbrella Corporation. What he got in return was naturally that the Umbrella Company took his daughter away. This guy is really a fence-sitter. Then don't blame him. After a moment, near the city hall, I have explained the situation inside very clearly. Now everyone should act according to the plan. Since Roca already knows that Umbrella Corporation is ambushing in the city hall, he will naturally not be unprepared. He will arrange everyone to carry out this anti-terrorism operation. Chapter 232. No problem. No one said a word. Knowing that their opponent this time was the Umbrella Company security personnel, they naturally would not be careless. Then the action begins. After hearing Roca's words, everyone immediately took action. This time they wanted to catch Umbrella Corporation off guard. Or maybe it's just a matter of taking advantage of the situation. Facing these protagonists, and it was a sneak attack, plus knowing the distance and location of the Umbrella Corporation security personnel from Ka. It can be said that this battle was one-sided from the very beginning. In the surprise attack, the Umbrella Corporation security personnel had no chance to resist and were all killed. But when they saw there was only one helicopter on the tarmac, they were immediately furious. 557 This BD, I should have thought of it earlier. Jill glared at Angela angrily. Claire hurriedly protected Angela behind her. No matter what, we can't put the blame on the child. Maybe Charles was threatened by the Umbrella Company. Then guess whether it's true that a nuclear bomb will explode over Raccoon City. Jill snapped. The most important issue now is not who is responsible, but that the nuclear bomb is about to explode. Now there is only one helicopter. Who should leave? Wouldn't this cause them to quarrel among themselves? Stop arguing, let's find a way to leave Raccoon City. Leon tried to persuade everyone. But Jill immediately retorted, it's less than 20 minutes before the explosion. Even if we find a way, it's impossible to leave Raccoon City in such a short time. Leon was speechless after hearing this. Indeed, unless he got on the helicopter now, there might still be a chance to leave Raccoon City before the nuclear bomb arrived. Don't even think about it. That helicopter won't start. Roca saw through the helicopter at a glance and realized that it was simply used as bait by Umbrella Corporation. Not only was there no oil, but there was not even a key pig. How to open this? Upon hearing this, King Ada went to check immediately and found that it was indeed true. There's no oil and no keys. After hearing this, everyone's hearts were completely relieved. Damn Umbrella Company, how could they do this? I must expose their evil deeds. Female reporter Terry was shouting for revenge like a madman. The others were also in low spirits. If no miracle happens, they may just die in the nuclear bomb explosion. Fortunately, nuclear bomb explosions are painless. Xiao He threw away his hat, then sat down and lit a cigarette. It's obvious that it's already a mess. Give me one, too. Carlos asked Aja for a cigarette and started smoking silently. Elder brother. Claire didn't complain about anything. She just thought about her brother Chris and wondered how he was doing on vacation in Europe. However, what she didn't know was that Chris was carrying out a life-threatening mission at this time. Never mind. Jill sighed and seemed to have given up completely. She took a cigarette, lit it and took a puff, then looked at Roca. I owe you 5 times, but unfortunately I don't have the chance to pay you back. No, there are still 10 minutes left. Do you want to try? Hearing this explicit statement, Roca was a little surprised. Here. Of course, where else do you want to be? Jill showed a look of contempt without any scruples. Or are you not capable? Sorry, I don't have the hobby of performing for others. Roca was really speechless. This woman was really fierce. The others had no reaction at all when they heard Jill's blunt words. It was obvious that they had given up. People can do anything before they die. Seeing this, Roca didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You guys are just giving up like this. What else? Jill lies on the hood of the car, showing off her curvy figure. It's a pity that no one looked at it except Roca. It seems that you still have some distrust in me as the team leader. Roca reached out without hesitation to feel Jill's hot body. She didn't mind at all. She was going to die anyway, so what was wrong with letting Roca touch her? It could be considered as a way of repaying him for saving her life. However, after hearing what he said, Jill was stunned for a moment, and then she boldly touched Roca's thigh. Wow, it's really big. Do you have a way to stop a nuclear bomb? No one else reacted when they heard this. Stop a nuclear bomb? Even they wouldn't dare to think so in their dreams. Roca slapped Jill's hand away and rolled his eyes. This girl was definitely very bold in bed and very cooperative. But forget it now. It's almost time. Wait a minute, I'll set off some fireworks for you. Roca snatched the cigarette from Jill's mouth and slowly flew up. Hey, I didn't expect you could actually fly. That's good, let's escape from Raccoon City quickly. Jill was a little surprised to see him flying, but immediately told him to leave quickly. This made Roca feel a little helpless. Hey man, can you bring someone? Xiao He rubbed his palms with a flattering smile. But no one paid any attention to him. I didn't expect that there are people in this world who can fly. Lion felt that his 3 views were refreshed. He had never thought that someone could fly. This was too outrageous. Can you take my daughter with you? Robert Kent knelt down directly. He didn't care whether he could survive or not. He just hoped that the other party could take his daughter Amy with him. Anne Birkin, standing by, also seemed to be overwhelmed with maternal love and pulled Shirley to say something. But he was interrupted by Roca. Wait. Roca didn't waste any words and flew into the sky and disappeared into the night in an instant. Chapter 233. At the same time. Outside Raccoon City, in the temporary base of Umbrella Corporation. Kane, the security director of Umbrella Corporation, was a little surprised when he saw the man flying in the surveillance video. He can actually fly? Are you kidding me? Not only him, but all the Umbrella Company employees present were dumbfounded. They had planned everything but never expected that someone could actually fly. This made Kane itchy. He really wanted to study this person. But there was no way. The tactical nuclear warhead carrying 5,000 tons of TNT equivalent had already been launched. How long will it take for the nuke to reach Raccoon City? Manager, 2 minutes left. 2 minutes? Wouldn't that mean he escaped? Let's analyze the opponent's flying speed immediately. Kane gave the order immediately. The nuclear bomb has been launched and cannot be changed. This has both advantages and disadvantages. The good thing is that the man named Roca has a 18% chance of surviving, so he has the opportunity to capture him and study him. The bad news is that the other party is not dead. It's a bit difficult to deal with this guy. After all, this guy can fly and hide, and can kill the T-103 tyrant in an instant. But he didn't think much about it, because as long as they are human, they have weaknesses, and he didn't believe that with the power of the Umbrella Corporation, they couldn't even deal with a human. Boss, the opponent's flying speed has been measured. How much is it? It's 350 meters per second, which is faster than the speed of sound. What? Kane was shocked. He didn't expect that the other party's flying speed would exceed the speed of sound. In this way, the opponent will most likely escape the range of the nuclear bomb explosion. Manager, is there anything else? Explain. That man went toward where the nuclear bomb was flying. Hey! Kane was stunned for a moment. What does this guy want to do if he doesn't escape from Raccoon City? He originally thought that the other party would escape from Raccoon City, but he didn't expect that he would actually run for the nuclear bomb. Could it be that the other party still wants to stop the nuclear bomb? This is a bit too funny. Once a nuclear bomb explodes, you cannot escape the explosion range even if you fly at supersonic speed. Isn't this just seeking death nakedly? No one knows Roca's real purpose, because his real purpose is indeed to stop the nuclear bomb. To be precise, it is to change the direction of the nuclear bomb. Get up there! Roca flew to the side of the nuclear bomb at high speed, reached out and grabbed the warhead and lifted it up with force. The enormous force caused the nuclear warhead to fly straight into outer space, and in just a moment it rose to a height of tens of thousands of meters. Boom boom! In an instant, a dazzling light appeared. At this moment, night turned into day. It was like there was an extra sun in the sky. Look in Raccoon City, Ada Wong, Jill, and all the others looked up at the sky in a daze. It's a nuclear bomb explosion. Jill murmured to herself, her eyes full of shock and disbelief. The direction of the nuclear bomb actually exploded tens of thousands of meters in the air? How is this possible? What is going on? For a moment, everyone was stunned and silent. Until the aftermath of the nuclear bomb explosion swept in from tens of thousands of meters in the sky, a strong wind blew and everyone was unable to open their eyes. Only then did everyone come back to their senses from the shock. The nuclear bomb went off. Claire muttered. It did explode, tens of thousands of meters in the air. King Ada stared at the sky, feeling a little worried. Narokata. Alice frowned, her intuition told her that the nuclear bomb explosion at an altitude of tens of thousands of meters must be related to Roca. But it is not known how the other party launched the nuclear bomb into the sky. The key is, what is Roca's situation like? Can you escape the range of a nuclear bomb blast? After hearing this, everyone fell silent. Thinking of Roca sacrificing himself to save them, everyone felt heavy and guilty. Dad, will Brother Roca come back? Little Amy looked up at the sky and asked her father. Robert Kent didn't know how to answer. Roca not only saved his daughter, but also saved him along the way. He really didn't know how to repay her. Now the other party sacrificed himself to save them. Should he tell his daughter that Roca would never come back? He really couldn't bring himself to say it. Damn it, since I can't accompany 710, I'll just save his life. Jill threw away the cigarette in her mouth. The guilt in her heart made it difficult for her to live alone, so she decided to go on the road with Roca. Anyway, if it weren't for Roca, she would have died many times. As she spoke, she raised the pistol and pointed it at herself. No one had time to stop her. But just at this time, a familiar voice sounded in everyone's ears. What are you doing? Are you tired of living? Jill was stunned for a moment, then looked at Roca with surprise. FK. Jill cursed and then strode over, put his arms around Roca's neck and kissed him. Roca was confused. Is this woman so proactive? Very good. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they saw him come back, but at the same time they felt a little surprised. How on earth did he change the direction of the nuclear bomb? And come back unscathed? Xiao Hei Aja whistled with a lewd smile on his face. Chapter 234. It took Jill a long time to open her mouth. Seeing this, Roca couldn't help but laugh and teased, maybe we can find a more suitable place to sit. That's good. Not only was Jill not shy at all, but she glared at him provocatively. This fierce look really made him speechless. Okay, there's no need to thank you. The most important thing for us now is to leave Raccoon City and seek revenge on Umbrella Corporation. If it wasn't for the purpose of uniting this team in preparation for building up their power, Roca wouldn't have been wasting time here. He would have already gotten rid of Kane, the security chief of Umbrella Corporation who had been causing trouble for them. But it's not too late now. That's right. Jill agreed with this very much and even gritted her teeth. Along the way, Umbrella Corporation sent a large number of T-103 tyrants. If it weren't for Roca, they would probably have died many times. This revenge must be avenged. I agree. Those bees should be killed. FK, I agree with killing those bastards at Umbrella Corporation. The Umbrella Corporation is responsible for everything in Raccoon City. We must get rid of them. If everyone shares the same hatred and a common enemy, things will be easier to handle. Without saying a word, Roca led a group of people to the temporary base of Umbrella Corporation outside Raccoon City. At the same time, FK seeing the nuclear bomb explode at an altitude of tens of thousands meters, Kane was so angry that he overturned the table. It's not like those guys weren't blown to death. If Raccoon City hadn't been bombed, Umbrella's actions would have been exposed sooner or later. The Umbrella Corporation is not afraid even though there is no evidence. But if there is evidence, even if the Umbrella Corporation remains unafraid, it will still cause some trouble. This is definitely not what the Umbrella Corporation's top executives want to see. As the person responsible for this accident, he will definitely be held accountable by the company. He felt shudder all over just thinking about what the outcome would be. Damn it, how did that guy get a nuclear bomb tens of thousands of meters into the air? Kane slammed the table. He really couldn't understand how the other party could send a nuclear bomb to an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. This was really outrageous. There's no other way, get people evacuated. It is impossible to launch another nuclear bomb now, so Kane can only order people to retreat. A moment later Kane was about to board a helicopter and leave. But unexpectedly at this time, the sound of a gunshot immediately caused Kane to run away with his head in his hands. I saw that the helicopter pilot had been shot in the head by a sniper rifle. Umbrella Corporation Security Director Kane, don't even think about leaving. Kane, who heard the voice, turned around and was suddenly shocked to see that the man had actually led Alice and others into the temporary camp of Umbrella Corporation. Ordinary security personnel are no match for them even if they are fully armed. Most of them were solved in an instant. Director, hurry up and get on another helicopter. Several security guards hurriedly escorted Kane away and tried to escape by another helicopter. However, when they arrived at the helicopter, they were overturned along with the helicopter by a terrifying telekinesis. Looking again, it was Alice using telekinesis. After being stimulated by Amy several times, Alice finally fully awakened her telekinesis. And once awakened, it displays quite powerful strength. Overturning a helicopter is just a piece of cake. You can't escape. When Kane got up from the ground in a panic, he saw Alice, Jill, Ada Wong and others standing in front of him, looking down at him. And the man who could fly and transfer nuclear bombs was right next to him, so he had completely given up. Mercy, mercy, spare my life? I can't let you go based on what you did. Jill said and shot without hesitation. When everything was over, everyone felt refreshed. Although the disaster in Raccoon City was irreversible, at least they dealt with the third mastermind behind the scenes. This can be considered as an explanation to the citizens of Raccoon City. Dad. Angela looked at her father Charles who had been rescued and immediately ran over excitedly. Charles, sitting in a wheelchair, hugged Angela and couldn't help but shed tears. After such a disaster, he was able to see his daughter again, and he had no regrets. Even if I were killed by Roca and others now, I would have no regrets. Don't you have anything to say? Jill pointed the gun at his head. I am very grateful that you can rescue Angela. Thank you, Charles thanked him gratefully. Humph, you think we will let you go just like that? Money. Jill curled her lips in displeasure. You have to know that they have come to this point, all thanks to Charles. This guy is completely an insider of the Umbrella Company. Let them go to City Hall to die. Roca, what do you think we should do with him? Claire felt sorry for Angela as she was hugging her father. After all, she was just a female college student who had just entered the society. However, she did not plead for Charles. Instead, he threw the question to Roca. After all, it was Roca who brought them out. It is reasonable and logical that he should make the decision. Then let him go. Roca said with a smile. Everyone was a little surprised to hear this. They didn't expect that he would choose to let Charles go. Chapter 235. However, this result is not difficult to accept. In fact, after getting rid of the culprit, Kane, the security director of Umbrella Corporation, they will not transfer their anger to Charles. After all, he is just a researcher. To say that he cooperated with Umbrella Corporation to lure them into a trap. It's no big deal. After all, even if Charles wasn't there, Umbrella Corporation would find other ways to cause trouble for them. The results are the same. You're lucky. Seeing this, Jill also put away his gun. Who said we should give it to him cheaply? Roca raised his eyebrows. Kindness. Jill looked at him with some confusion. Although I won't kill you, you will still be sentenced to life imprisonment. Life imprisonment. Everyone was a little confused when they heard this. Let's go. If you behave well, you can see Angela more often. Roca has already figured out how to deal with Charles. This guy is very knowledgeable about the T-virus, so he certainly can't be wasted. Then he had a bold idea. 967 This requires a lot of people to help. Charles is one of them. What should we do next? The zombies in Raccoon City have spread out. Jill looked into the distance and found that the zombies had begun to climb the bridge. She believed that it would not take long for them to break through the blockade of the Raccoon City bridge and spread to the outside world. By then it might be too late to stop it. There was even a moment when she hoped that the nuclear bomb could completely cleanse Raccoon City so that the virus would not spread. Don't even think about it. Even a nuclear bomb explosion can't stop the spread of the virus. Let's take a helicopter and leave first. Roca's words dispelled her inappropriate thoughts. If nuclear bombs could stop the T-virus, the world would not have ended. Obviously this is impossible. The nuclear bomb explosion can at most delay the spread of the T-virus, but it still cannot change the ending of this world. Everyone was silent after hearing this. A moment later, the group left here on a transport plane. Roca was right. Because the nuclear bomb did not clean up Raccoon City, the T-virus spread much faster than expected. In just 1 week, it spread almost throughout America. Even the military's efforts to stop it were of no avail. If this continues, the whole world will probably be plunged into a biochemical crisis within half a year. Of course, this is not something Roca needs to consider. Half a month later. Near Eastern California, North America, this is the headquarters of the North American Umbrella Corporation. This is the underground research base where the Umbrella Corporation is located in the third part of the movie. The originally peaceful Umbrella base suddenly welcomed a group of uninvited guests. There is an intruder! Blast blast! When the security personnel in the base noticed the intruder, Roca had already rushed in with Alice, Ada Wong, and others. It's just that it's different from the team that left Raccoon City half a month ago. This time, the black people Peyton, Aja, Leon, and female reporter Terry were missing. Roca brought others to the underground base of the Umbrella Corporation in North America, preparing to seize the base. According to his plan, all he had to do was capture this base and stabilize the development. This is also his goal at this stage. Alice, Roca yelled. No communication is required. After being strengthened by the super soldier serum, Super Alice immediately understood what he meant and immediately rushed out from another passage. The entire underground research base is really too large. We have to act separately. The purpose of this time is to wipe out all Umbrella Corporation employees in this research base, including the person in charge and Umbrella Corporation's chief biologist, Dr. Isaac. Jill, you, Claire, and Ada Wong go over there. Carlos, you, Kent, and Amy go over there, and Amy, be careful to protect everyone. Clear. Just follow me and we'll go in through the main entrance. Roca said this and looked at Angela, Charles, Annie Birkin, and Shirley behind him. Boom. The metal door was violently opened. Immediately afterwards, the Umbrella Company security personnel who had been lying in ambush behind the door opened fire, and countless bullets swarmed in like a metal storm. However, Roca just yawned, and all the bullets were blown back. And a storm swept the Umbrella Corporation security personnel into the sky, and then fell heavily to the ground. The other side. Alice kept dodging the bullets from the Umbrella Corporation security guards, and then kept shooting with both guns, killing them all in just a moment. Just then, a rocket launcher attacked her. Alice's expression remained unchanged, but her blue eyes moved slightly, and the next second, her telekinesis burst out, pushing the rocket back. Boom! Alice didn't even look at the explosion and continued to move deeper into the research institute. At the same time, the situation is similar for Jill and Claire. Although they do not have superpowers, they have superhuman speed and strength thanks to the enhancement of the super soldier serum. There is naturally no problem in dealing with these security personnel. Of course, Carlos, Kent, and Amy were also very relaxed, even though they did not receive the super soldier serum. But Amy is no less powerful than Alice, and her superpowers are even stronger than Alice's. As soon as the Umbrella Corporation's security personnel appeared, they were controlled by Amy's superpowers and were easily dealt with like lambs to be slaughtered. Chapter 236. Damn it, get rid of these invaders for me. Faced with the sudden attack by Roca's team, Dr. Isaac was furious. However, ordinary security personnel were of no use at all. In just a moment, Roca and others had broken through the numerous blockades and were about to arrive in front of him. Dr. Isaac was so scared that he ran to the laboratory. Seeing that he was at his wit's end, he directly injected the T-virus containing Alice's serum into his own body. And one injection was not enough, he injected it multiple times. Yes, he has. He knew what would happen if he fell into the hands of the other party, so instead of waiting to die, he might as well give it a try. The other side. Roca reunites with Alice, Aida Wong, and the others. No one's hurt, right? Don't worry, there's no way you can get hurt against these people. Jill waved her hand nonchalantly. Perhaps it would have been a little troublesome to deal with these security guards before they were injected with the super soldier serum, but after being injected with the super soldier serum, they were no longer ordinary people. His reaction, speed, strength, etc. are several times that of ordinary people. How could the Umbrella Corporation security personnel get hurt in this situation? Well, let's go in and get rid of Dr. Isaac, the person in charge of this base. Then this place will be ours. Everyone was excited to hear this. After all, it was a whole large research base. Its value is immeasurable. By the way, Alice will have a surprise later. Roca couldn't help but feel amused when thinking about the cloning project of this experimental base. Although it was 5 years earlier than the plot of Resident Evil 3, the Alice cloning project obviously started earlier. This means that there are at least several thousand Alice clones in this base. These are the powers that Roca values very much. In the future, the operation and security of this base will depend on these Alice clones. Although Umbrella Corporation's Alice cloning technology still has major problems at present, these are not problems. Alice was not surprised to hear this. In fact, she had noticed it when she approached the underground research base. There seems to be some kind of connection between her and her clone. No nonsense. Everyone entered the final laboratory together. However, what greeted them here were not bullets from the Umbrella security personnel, but a dark and silent laboratory. What's going on? Because the laboratory was too dark, no one could see clearly what was inside. But the next moment, several tentacles suddenly shot towards everyone. Alice reacted extremely quickly and used telekinesis to quickly control the attacking tentacles. Jill turned on the emergency lights. A zombie with its arms turned into tentacles appeared in front of everyone. He must be Dr. Isaac. King Ada recognized the other person's identity at a glance. Even though he had turned into a zombie, the work badge on his chest did not get hot. Yes, this guy seems to have injected himself with a lot of T-virus. Claire immediately saw the syringe on the ground not far away and guessed that the other party must have injected her with the T-virus, which was why she turned into such a monster. It's a pity that even if I turn into a monster, the ending won't change. Alice said as she fired her pistol. Cut cut cut. It's just that Dr. Isaac became a tyrant with tentacles because he injected too much T-virus. It is really difficult to solve this problem with ordinary bullets. But that's not a big deal. Claire immediately took out a flamethrower and burned it. A moment later Dr. Isaac was burned to ashes. Finally solved, now this research base is ours, request flowers. Claire breathed a sigh of relief and became a little excited at the same time. She had never thought that she would work in such a huge research base after graduating from college. Everyone couldn't help but smile when they heard his words. But Roca shook his head and smiled, although we have dealt with the people from Umbrella Corporation, this underground research base does not belong to us yet. Kindness. Everyone was a little confused when they heard this. It's very simple. Roca snapped his fingers. Queen Bee, come out and say hello. 0.0 Before Jill could ask what this meant. The next moment a white projection appeared in front of everyone. Little girl. Claire was startled by the sudden appearance of the little girl in white, but she quickly realized that it was just a projection. Is this the management artificial intelligence of this base? Alice, who knew the most about the hive, understood it instantly. Ho said to everyone, you invaders will not get this underground research base. The company will send people to reclaim this base soon. Hey, I wonder if you will say that after I modify your background code. Roca said and ignored Bai Ho. Next, we have to continue to go deeper into this research base, find the motherboard of the White Queen, and then modify the code for its control permissions, so that this base will completely belong to us. If you don't control Bai Ho, you won't be able to control this underground base. Moreover, the Umbrella Corporation can send orders at any time after dialogue, and it is even possible to activate the self-destruction program of this base. So Roca didn't waste any time and took action immediately. Plus. Chapter 237. Perhaps sensing danger, Queen Bai immediately activated the protection program. Laser channel. Looking at the bright passage in front of him, Roca walked in without thinking. Hey, maybe we can solve it in a more scientific way. Jill picked up her notebook and gestured. She was also a computer expert. If she was given time, she would be able to break through the White Queen's defense. Don't waste time. Roca waved his hand nonchalantly. As expected. When he entered the passage, the door closed immediately. Then a laser came and cut it in half. Roca didn't dodge or evade, just watching the laser cutting towards him. The next moment, a mark was cut on his clothes by the high-temperature laser. But the skin of 073 inside was not harmed at all. Jill and Claire, who were watching this scene outside, were almost perverted. However, Roca was a little unhappy. He was about to destroy the whole place with one punch, but then he thought about having to repair it later, which would be very troublesome. So he still did not attack the laser channel, but went directly to the other side of the channel and removed the door. The door was opened and the laser defense measures in the headquarters were immediately stopped. Roca turned to Jill helplessly and said, "Maybe you are right, I should really consider scientific methods." Jill and Claire couldn't help laughing when they saw that his clothes were reduced to rags. After a while, they found the room where Bai Ho's mainboard was located. Like the Red Queen, the White Queen also developed a trace of emotion, so under Roca's threat, she could only expose her original code and provide modifications. In this way, he completely controlled the underground research base in North America. Of course, at present, they have only taken preliminary control of the entire underground base. If they want to make it operate, it is not realistic to rely solely on Bai Ho. We also need some people to be responsible for daily maintenance. After a moment, several people came to the largest laboratory in this underground research institute. The laboratory is very large, and there are a large number of glass culture dishes stored on both sides of the room. In the glass petri dishes are clones of Alice, ranging from small to large. So many Alices. These are clones of Alice. There are so many of them. Didn't expect that Umbrella Corporation's cloning technology has developed to this level. It's unbelievable. Looking at the hundreds of glass culture dishes in the laboratory, everyone was a little shocked. Especially Alice, she knew something about her own clones, but she didn't expect there were so many of them here. There are a total of 1001 clones here, and 380 have died. Bai Ho began to introduce everything here to everyone. What? So many people have died. Why? King Aida was a little surprised after hearing this. Because the Umbrella Corporation's cloning technology is not perfect, there are still many problems that have not been solved, which leads to the premature death of many clones. Umbrella Corporation's cloning technology is not very mature, so some clones die shortly after they come out. I remember that in the movie, the technology didn't mature until 5 years later. The current cloning technology is naturally not as mature as it will be in 5 years. I see. After hearing what Queen Bai said, everyone understood. Are there any mature clones? Alice asked curiously. Not yet. The White Queen shook her head and replied. What a shame, I thought I could see a lot of Alices appearing together. Claire looked regretful. Doesn't that mean that these clones can't survive? Jill asked. According to probability calculations, there is a chance that 3 people will survive. White Queen replied. So little. Only 1 out of 1,000 clones survives, the probability is too small. Everyone felt a little reluctant, after all, it was thousands of lives at stake. Alice reached out and touched the glass petri dish with some emotion. She didn't expect that all of them would die. Who said everyone will die? Roca crossed his arms and chuckled. In fact, he had expected this. If the Umbrella Corporation's cloning technology was really mature, it would be impossible for Alice to appear and stop them. Maybe when they attacked the Underground Research Institute before, Alice's team came to stop them. Just think about the Alice team, each member of which has superpowers. It must be a headache for everyone. It's just that the Umbrella Corporation's cloning technology is not mature at present, or it can be said that Alice's cloning technology is not mature. After all, Alice is adapted to the T-virus. Different from ordinary people. What can you do? After hearing this, everyone wanted to know what he meant. Is it possible to make all these clones survive? Give me some time, and I will perfect the cloning technology. Roca had planned from the beginning to perfect the Umbrella Corporation's cloning technology by himself, and he would not allow so many Alices to die. These 1001 Alices would be his future guards, a team of super soldiers who all possessed telekinesis and were enhanced by super soldier serum, and could also provide warm medical treatment when necessary. It's very exciting just thinking about it. 4.3 So Roca immediately asked Bai Ho to take out all the clone information. He wanted to perfect his cloning technology as quickly as possible. This shouldn't be a difficult task for him who possesses super brain power. Alice and Jill looked at each other in bewilderment when they saw Roca start to study it. It goes without saying that front-end technology like cloning is very complex. Do you want to thoroughly study and perfect it in a short period of time? This is almost impossible. But when they thought about how Roca always created miracles, they didn't say anything. Just go about your own business. It is not an easy task to operate such a huge underground research base, and they will be busy in the future. Chapter 238. Months passed in the blink of an eye. It worked. In the laboratory, Roca looked at the research results of the clones in front of him excitedly. After several months of research, he finally perfected the Umbrella Corporation's cloning technology. As long as the cloning experiment is carried out according to his research data, Alices will definitely survive successfully, and their potential, physical fitness and lifespan will be greatly improved. You have to know that Umbrella's original cloning technology would die within minutes after Alice left the petri dish. Thinking of this, Roca couldn't wait to ask the White Queen to adjust Alice's body in the petri dish according to his experimental data. The timing of this adjustment will vary depending on the maturity stage of Alice's clones. Perhaps in a few days or even more than 10 days, a clone of Alice will appear after the first step of adjustment. Thinking of this, he stretched and left the laboratory. White Queen, where are they? Roca asked as they walked. The next moment, Bai Ho's projection appeared in front of him. Ada Wong is training 18 games, Claire is playing games with Myra, Shirley and the others, and Jill is dealing with scattered zombies outside. Deal with the zombies? Have the zombies spread here? Roca was a little surprised. After hearing this, Queen Bai immediately showed a map of the spread of zombies. The red areas on the map represented where the zombies were spreading. It can be seen that most parts of the United States have been occupied by zombies, and the zombie virus is spreading to neighboring countries. Nearly half of the countries in the world have been infested by zombies. It can be said that the whole world has fallen into the doomsday era. Roca took a look and then crossed out the map. He had expected this situation, so it was not surprising. A moment later he arrived at the training room. I saw King Ada shooting alone at the shooting range. Why are you here alone? The sudden voice behind him made King Ada stop shooting. He was a little surprised when he saw it was him. Did the research succeed? Of course, who do you think I am? Roca smiled and hugged her slender waist, then looked her up and down. You still like red suspender skirts so much. Do you like it? Ada Wong put down the gun and glasses, put his arms around his neck and smiled. Of course I do. Roca said as he bent down and kissed her. The two kissed passionately for a while before separating. Ada Wong panted and asked, have you really developed the technology to clone people? We'll talk about this later. As Roca said this, he lifted up her long legs and made her do the splits. King Aida couldn't help but roll his eyes at him, and then responded enthusiastically. After a passionate conversation, Roca told her about the breakthrough in cloning technology. Does this mean that the 1000 Alices in the petri dishes are about to wake up? That's right. I'm afraid the entire research base will become lively from now on. Roca said this and kissed her again, then put on his clothes and left the training ground. He looked at Alice, Jill and Claire again. Although it was a bit boring in this dark underground research institute, it was still relatively safe compared to the outside world. Since they understand the situation outside, they naturally have nothing to complain about. I was just a little surprised when he said that Alice's clones were about to wake up. After briefly chatting with the girls, Roca opened the dimensional passage and returned to Silent Hill. I have been busy with research these past few months, so I haven't had time to come back and take a look. Fortunately, he had told them in advance, so Allison and Heather were not too worried. However, after not seeing him for a few months, the girls missed him very much. So naturally there is some passion. Boss, I can't stand it anymore, go find them. Allison knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. She was sweating profusely at this time. No, it's not full yet. Roca naturally disagreed and he had to fill Allison's cup today. Who made this chick complain the loudest? As soon as he came back, he started complaining non-stop, making him feel like there were countless ducks around his ears. She must be punished severely. So, for the whole night, the only people left in the room were the girls lying all over the place, looking beaten up. Roca was full of energy and even had time to check his own system personal attributes. What the hell? Superman's bloodline has already reached 50%. It would have been fine if I hadn't looked at it, but I was shocked when I saw it. I didn't expect that I hadn't completed any system tasks in several months, but I didn't expect that my strength had improved so much. No wonder Allison complained. I guess she must have had a headache completing the commissioned tasks during this period. But the result is also very good. Pa, in excitement, Roca slapped Allison's butt. Hey, stop pretending to sleep. An evil smile suddenly appeared on his face, and then he helped Allison, who was pretending to be asleep, to enter through the back door. Now Allison couldn't sleep at all. Aome was pretending to be asleep, but unexpectedly she was dragged into the battlefield the next moment. A few days later, Roca returned to the research base of Resident Evil again. White Queen, how is Alice adjusting? 20 Alice clones have been adjusted and injected with super soldier serum. Oh. Roca was a little surprised. He didn't expect that in just a few days, the bodies of 20 Alice clones had been adjusted and injected with super soldier serum. This means he will immediately have 20 super Alice bodyguards. Notify Alice and the others to come over immediately. Roca said this and walked towards the training area. After agreeing, the White Queen immediately notified Alice, King Ada, and the others. As for Carlos, he was a gatekeeper and was not qualified to enter the cultivation room. Chapter 239. When Alice, Jill, Ada Wong, and the others arrived at the cultivation room, they saw 20 people standing in front of them wearing red suspender skirts, the same stunning outfit as when Alice first appeared. The 20 Alice clones look exactly the same, with golden hair, blue eyes, and even their expressions are exactly the same. When Alice arrived, all the clones subconsciously looked at her. How's it going? Say hello to your clones. Roca saw this and smiled playfully. Alice always felt something was strange, as if she was greeting herself. It's amazing. Ada Wong and Jill Claire were also looking at both sides in surprise. If it weren't for the different clothes they were wearing, they would have been hard to tell who was the real Alice. Hello. Alice waved awkwardly and greeted her clones, and then the clones also greeted her and started asking questions. In fact, the clones have some of Alice's memories, which makes the situation very subtle. However, the clones still showed great respect for Alice, the original body. Because there is some kind of spiritual connection between them. It seems that he can see each other's minds and vision through superpowers. Alice is more like a transit station between them and also a leader. This makes things easier. Alice, I'll leave them to you now. By the way, I've given them code names, from 1 to 20, and given them different ID cards. Without their ID badges, it would be impossible to tell who was who. So this is very important. No problem. Alice nodded. It would be fine to let her lead these clones, after all, there was a spiritual connection between the two sides. Then the security of the base will be left to you. Roca plans to let Alice's clone handle various matters throughout the base, but at present there is a severe shortage of people in the security field. Since they took down the base, Umbrella Corporation has not taken any retaliatory action. They must have learned something from the surveillance footage of their invasion of the base, so they didn't dare to act rashly. However, it is only a matter of time before Umbrella Corporation retaliates. And he can't be here forever. Therefore, security is the most important issue that needs to be considered at present. After dealing with these things, Roca suddenly remembered that he had left King Kong in the foggy world and had not taken care of him for such a long time. It was time to see how this big guy had grown. So he opened a dimensional channel and headed for the foggy world. Hey? Where's King Kong? Roca looked around and found that there was no King Kong beside the lake, but a two-headed giant snake was lying quietly at the bottom of the lake. Ignoring the two-headed snake, he looked into the depths of the fog. It was not until a moment later that King Kong was found. I didn't expect this guy to appear dozens of kilometers away and was fighting with a giant tiger. And the battle was over quickly. Hey you big guy! The next second Roca appeared on King Kong's shoulder. The sudden voice startled King Kong, but he was relieved when he found out it was him. It can be seen that King Kong seemed to have suffered some pain in the foggy world, otherwise he would not be so vigilant. You're here. King Kong used his hands to sign. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you to have grown so big after not seeing you for a few months. Roca looked at King Kong with some amazement. This guy is much bigger than before. Before, its height was only 31 meters, but now its height has exceeded 40 meters. This growth rate is simply amazing. You have to know that it has only been less than half a year. Roar! King Kong patted his chest and looked very proud, because he had hunted many large monsters in the past few months. It was because of eating these large monsters that it grew so quickly. This was beyond Roca's expectations. He didn't expect that the monsters in this foggy world could actually promote King Kong's growth. This is a pleasant surprise. There's a Godzilla and King Ghidorah out there waiting for you to defeat. Keep it up. Roca is very much looking forward to the scene where King Kong fights Godzilla and King Ghidorah, which will definitely be a very exciting moment. King Kong seemed to understand what he said and became more eager to fight. After leaving the foggy world, Roca returned to New York. My dear Allison, is there any commission worth my help recently? With nothing to do, he hugged Bella and watched TV boredly, wondering if there was any commission that would allow him to go out and play. But Allison shook her head. There are no particularly difficult commissions at the moment. Wendy and Tina have also accepted a commission to kill a murderer. Moreover, there are werewolves and vampires to help. You know, those werewolves are a bunch of guys who can't sit still. It would be good to find something for them to do so that they don't cause trouble. Werewolves are indeed some restless guys, especially now that Selena needs to manage more werewolf and vampire tribes, it is even more difficult to control them. It would be a good thing to find something for them to do. Doesn't that mean I can only take some time off? Roca was lying lazily on the sofa, looking like a lazy fish. It turned out that he was right to establish his own power in the beginning. Now there were so many people helping him to complete the commission. He could become stronger just by lying at home. It feels great to get something for nothing. Allison couldn't help but roll her eyes. Of course not. If you really can't stay idle, I can assign you some commissions. That's not necessary. Roca is not the kind of person who would look for trouble. If he has that free time, he would rather stay at home and hug his wife comfortably. So Roca lay down completely for the rest of the time. When I have nothing to do, I run around Paris Serena, Heather Manor, and Silent Hill, King Lee's. I also lend it to other people to play with when I have free time. It wasn't until a year later that Roca's Superman bloodline reached 100% and he successfully became the Silver Superman. However, the Silver Supermass is just the starting point. A new round of system entrustment begins. Roca once again opened the door to an unknown dimension. This time he is heading to the Marvel Universe, and see how he turns the Marvel Universe upside down. This book is finished. Note from author, this book ends here. In fact, most of the American horror films have been written. There is nothing more to write about afterwards. As soon as I wrote a little more about Resident Evil, I was criticized for being too watery. So there won't be any more water later. Thank you to all the readers who have read this. Thank you to every reader who supported this book. Very grateful. I hope that interested readers can support the author to publish this book, thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.